Let's go racing on this glorious Wednesday night around one of the most testing and grueling racetracks this planet has to offer. Ranked racing on RaceRoom Racing Experience continues to move from strength to strength as our community continues to grow and soar, and we are all ready for what is on the menu today. It's a 2.4-hour test around the green hell itself, the Nürburgring, with all of its twists and turns. And through all of the action today, it's myself, Lewis McGlade. Alongside me in the booth, it's Christo. You in the community might know him a bit better as Captain Coffee. Hello.
Hello, Lewis, and thank you for having me tonight. What a wonderful race.
It's going to be a thrilling race. What a racetrack to be at. One of the most recognizable ribbons of racetrack in the entire planet. A true test for our drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And as we can see last weekend, a lot of things can happen, especially during a longer race.
2.4 hours of racing then, so drivers will have to be on their absolute limit around here. It's going to expect a couple of pit stops. There is a bit open for strategy, potentially a one-stop. We're speaking to some of the drivers that took part in this race this morning on the Australian side of things. There's plenty to play for on that side of things, but with this being really the high-end side of the ranked racing on RaceRoom Racing Experience, we are going to see some of the best take to the track.
Yeah, definitely. The lap times will be quite fast, somewhere between 8:05 and 8:15 during the qualification. So the pace is definitely very high.
Certainly will be, and we will expect them to reach those lofty heights. Of course, qualifying will be underway in a few minutes' time. You can see there it starts at 8 o'clock in Central Europe. So with that in mind, with it being a 20-minute qualifying session, we've got 33 cars on the server. And so the way this is going to work is qualifying is going to be very, very important. With it being an 8-minute lap, you're only going to get a couple of laps on the board, and that is the difference between starting from the front of the grid or starting from the very back, which, yes, sure, 2.4 hours of racing, you don't want to have to try and make your way through all of that at the start of the race.
No, definitely not. The start of the race is already going to be very important, and hopefully turn 1 will be quite safe. But if you lose a lot of time during the qualification, it's going to be very difficult to try and work your way to the front.
Got a mix of cars as well also, with, you know, the classic fashion of this being GT3 racing. This is why we love this kind of stuff, being able to see all these different cars and brands. Talk us through some of the cars, some of the ones that we should be looking out for, ones that are strong around here potentially, and ones that might favour the high-speed straights.
Well, there has been a lot of talk about it. Some people prefer the Mercedes, some are very hesitant about the Bentley, and others are more, well, don't really like the Audi because it's quite difficult to handle. So I think in the end we're going to see a lot of different cars, and I would not be surprised if the top 5 or even top 10 would consist of very different manufacturers and not just one single manufacturer.
Kind of one of those circuits that, yep, BOP, different cars, blah, 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 whatever. The driver does make the difference. It is one of those tracks around the world where having that almost local knowledge is critical around here, because you can have some of the best drivers in the world take to the circuit, and sure, they're fast. They'll be able to get to an adequate speed around here, but how many times have we spoken about Nordschleife specialists, the driver that really knows this track like the back of their hand? It's where experience and knowledge does reign supreme.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people have been practicing a lot. The popularity of ranked RaceRoom has been increasing in the past few months, but especially this particular combination. I think I've never seen so many drivers fighting to get in one of the servers on this specific combination.
Why do you think that is? Is that just down to the growth of RaceRoom, or is it something about this magical connection?
Probably both. A lot of streamers have been picking it up as well, and they do really enjoy trying to fight each other and the communities and just connect on, and especially on such a big track as this. I mean, 25 kilometers, that's, you know, a lot of things can happen even if it's just a 60-minute race, and it's always exciting.
Yeah, we've got, like I say, it's a 33-car grid, so I don't think we'll be stretching them too thin over the 2.4 hours of racing. Said about the pit stops and stuff, which we're going to talk about coming into the race a little bit more into detail, but the expectation is more likely a two-stop strategy, so they'll be coming into the pit lane twice, but obviously any time that you can avoid the pit lane will be better. You can see here on your screen we are in qualifying right now, and we'll be watching our first laps get underway. They're starting from Tiergarten, so they're coming round to do a rolling start to the lap. So this is the beginning of timed lap. Everyone else is out on circuit as well at the same kind of time, so you get the track to yourself. In that sense, there's no excuse for no mistakes, but we know what this track's like.
Yeah, we're always up for a surprise. And if you crash during the qualification, then it's better to crash in the first 2 or 3 minutes, because otherwise you won't be able to get a new lap in. You'll have to start, well, based on the position you joined the server, which can be anywhere between position 10 and 34.
Yeah, I once commentated, or once actually raced with, I think it was when we were doing the live event in Germany. Around here. So this was in 2018, and there was an issue. It was a 10-minute qualifying session, and we were doing the WTCR cars, and Gergo Baldi had a little bit of a delay to the start of his session. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a technical issue. But he only lost, I think it was only about 30 or 40 seconds, and because of that, he couldn't actually complete his lap time. Because a reminder for anyone who doesn't watch too much RaceRoom or is looking to jump into the community, I'm sure all of our community members are very much aware of this. Once that timer hits 0, the session is done. We move straight into the race session. So making it count in this kind of time, 20 minutes sounds like a lot of time, but it goes so fast.
Yeah, if you get 2 laps in, then you can clap in your hands, but I would not be surprised if a few people won't be able to get a valid lap time in, just because of the pressure as well. You really need to perform, and, well, it might even be safe to just try and get a slightly slower lap time in than push towards the limit and, well, lose it somewhere along the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look then around the laps. This is onto the green hell itself, the famous ribbon, as it were, and this is where we're going to see some really, really tight racing over the first couple laps, especially with that run up to Flugplatz and then coming round to Schwedenkreuz. This is where obviously, you know, the 24 hours on the weekend, and I don't know how many people have seen the onboard lap from the first couple with Kevin Estra going right on the attack to this point. It is possible to head too wide through a lot of this section. You just have to be very, very brave, especially when we get to this point of the racetrack going through Schwedenkreuz.
Yeah, definitely, and it doesn't really matter which car, well, except of course the NSU and the shopping cart, but if you have a lot of speed, it really takes a lot of practice to try and get that corner perfect, especially if there's traffic in front of you and next to you. The pressure is always really high there.
It really, really is, and especially up to this section as well, coming up to Ardenauer Forst, where the curbs are very, very high. They're high around all of this circuit, don't get me wrong, but around here you can just take a little bit too much, then you go for this really lazy, lethargic slide that's just not ideal for anyone. It's not pretty, and it's, to be honest, kind of embarrassing, but it's one that we've all done. It's very, very easy to do. Down towards Metzgersfeld, and we run down the hill to Kallenhard before what is one of my favourite parts of the circuit, going through 3 fast rights, where it's fantastic commitment and bravery, because you have to trust. I know it sounds stupid, but you have to trust that the corner's always going to be there at the time you go. The front end is always going to bite, and most importantly, that there isn't someone backwards on the other end of the corner, which I've had a couple of times.
Yeah, especially on the green hell, it's not called that just for the jokes or anything, but it really can be a hell to drive here. And as you can see in the last weekend, instead of 24 hours, how many hours did they eventually drive?
Yeah, I think it was a whopping 9.5 if memory serves. It was a slightly cut down race. Thankfully, the joys of sim racing is we can avoid all of that side of things with the whole foggy area. It is an exceptionally foggy region, this one, but we don't necessarily have to deal with that in sim racing terms, so it's fine. We can bypass that as we run through Bergwerk and begin this enormous climb. Obviously, the camera angles that we have in here never really show how steep this is and how big of a climb, but we are rising all the way up to the carousel and even a little bit beyond before we get to Hohe Acht, and then start to descend ever so slightly before rising up again and going down again. It's this undulation stuff, which I think is almost underrated with how much this adds character. I know obviously everyone talks about, like, you know, the rays and stuff, sure, but it's such a big deal that this track, with all of its fantastic corners, was built in this incredibly hilly region that just really does provide some fantastic corners.
Yeah, and especially if you also take the time to look around, and of course in a sim you usually just jump in and drive, but there are so many details around the track and on the track that you would easily miss out if you're blasting by with 200 kilometers per hour. But it is such a beautiful track to see and to drive.
Here's her act coming in this. You use a little bit of the curb on the left-hand side and then hook it in for a slightly later apex. Not sure that line was 100% ideal, but then we start descending and really remembering which curbs you can abuse and which ones you can't. This is the part where, in my opinion, the knowledge of the Nordschleife, those drivers that understand how to push the limit around here, this is where these drivers come to the fore, because it's always this part of the track where you know, you can drive it okay, but those that know, even if they're not so great on other circuits, this is where they can really extract the most time, because it's just the part of the circuit that obviously you're a long way in. I don't think people remember this part as much because it's so fast and frantic.
Looks like I'm showing the wrong car, so let me quickly search for the correct car instead.
No worries. We've got a big grid of 33 cars, so the likes of Mercedes and BMW and Audi, of course, with Chevrolet. We've got Porsches out there as well as those Bentleys you were alluding to. I think we've got one of those and a McLaren as well. So a colourful grid that we'll be able to see on the circuit at the moment. It's Drovosekov who's currently on the screen, who I don't think is on for the most ideal lap. The Swiss driver who's been watching around the Nordschleife, coming up towards Galgenkopf, and this is a really, really important run onto the Duttinger Hohe, and certainly a corner which I've had many disagreements with, because you commit in with such high speed and such aggression that sometimes the front end just doesn't bite. You clip a little bit of the grass on the left-hand side and you are gone. Expect, by the way, through the race, we are going to see them making a lot of passes here, 2, maybe 3 wide in the first couple of laps, as everyone's jostling for position to try and gain as much as they can. And for those that have qualified poorly, they are going to be desperate to get onto the Duttinger Hohe and try and start making some progress.
And then upcoming to this part, which can also be quite scary, especially in the lower tier servers. I don't expect a lot of issues going around here on this server because of the incredibly high rating average. But yeah, I mean, one small lockup and it's over.
Absolutely. We'll see these gaps as they come across the line, and this is where, sure, your lap might be a little bit slow, it might be a little bit not ideal, but you've just got to complete it to get a time onto the board. These gaps, I would suspect, are going to come down, but look at how close it is already from Fabian Guide and Kevin Bellens, who are separated by less than a tenth. Although that said, we'll just put out a little bit of a caveat. An 8:09.2. We are expecting to see times a little bit quicker than that as the session unfolds. That said, it could be the pole time. Who knows? Because the drivers now will be starting their second and what will be their final lap of qualifying around here.
Yeah, regardless of the fastest lap time, an 8:09, I will not be able to reproduce that.
Absolutely not. I am not a Nordschleife specialist. I'm talking about all these things of Nordschleife specialist, this and that. I am not one. I don't know if you are. I'm most certainly not.
Well, I mean, it's not esports, but it is esports pace almost.
Absolutely. The thing, yeah, sure. Anyone coming from the esports world, I'm more from the Capt Sim Racing series and that kind of side of things of seeing this more from an esports. As that's not a great line from Gerd Schulze. I've more seen this from a proper competition point of view. But trust me, people on this grid are more than capable of taking part on those kind of grids. It is exceptionally competitive. These are very, very good drivers, very much on the limit, especially around a circuit like this. That Audi, though, don't know about you, is looking very tail happy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's driving on default setup or if he just tried to change a few things, but I would not feel comfortable.
Like, again, this is the whole thing of I get it. For qualifying, you want a car that's going to be on the limit, that's going to be maybe a little bit dangerous. For the race, 2.4 hours around here, if it's that slippery, I'd want to change some things. I would rather a car that I know that I can get to the end of the race in, because it's looking a touch sketchy. And I'm sure, whilst we're looking at Gerd Schulze, that this is not the only car that is driving a bit wacky like this. There are going to be a lot of drivers that have set their car up to maybe be a little bit oversteery, to maybe a little bit pushy, because it's so hard to set up a car around a track this long.
Yeah, and especially if you just have 1 week to set it up. Well, even less than a week, actually. If you have a day job or you just have the weekend to spend some time doing the setups, then yeah, it can be very tricky. But I would also rather go for a safer, maybe slightly slower setup.
Ooh. That's not great. Right, now he's escaped, I think, based on where Gerd Schulze is, he's going to try again, by the way, but will not have enough time to complete a lap. So for all the drivers, this is the cutoff point. All the drivers that make a mistake now, their session is done. That is it.
All you can do now is just do a couple more practice runs and make sure that you actually have enough fuel, make maybe a few final adjustments, maybe practice your start even, but not a valid lap time.
No, I do. I absolutely agree. Like if you've if you've had an issue at this point in qualifying, still stay on the circuit. Just get out there. Just go and learn something, because every single lap, every single corner you do around here, you will learn something. Even if you don't actively acknowledge it, you still, like, subconsciously, you're still picking up, oh, actually, I can probably take a little bit more speed through there, or this is what the car will be like on this fuel, and this is kind of how I need to drive. And also just calming yourself down a little bit, preparing for the race, preparing to drive potentially over the first lap or two, 80-90%, just to get into the rhythm of the race. 2.4 hours is a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, some people might have gotten a slower qualification, but that doesn't say a lot about the first lap. I mean, if something goes wrong in the first 10 or maybe somewhere in the mid-pack, it can be quite easy to actually overtake a few people, especially when the qualification times are this close.
I will say one thing that I'm actually quite impressed with is actually how many drivers we've had set a lap in the early part of this session, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean, it's of a 33-car grid to have had over the first attempt for them to have had 28 drivers actually setting a time. That is actually pretty decent, because I have commentated on a 25-car grid around here where 10 people have qualified. Right? It's so easy to make a mistake, and you kind of think, oh, it's fine, I've got another lap, I'll just push on that one. And then you push on that one, and then you exceed a little bit too far, the lap gets invalidated, or you crash, or something like that. It's so easy to be lulled into that sort of drive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's probably safer to just set a slightly slower but valid lap time in than no lap at all. And I mean, 28 drivers out of 33, 34, that's incredible.
Really is. Let's see. We'll keep an eye on Chris van der Zijden, who's currently driving around, and most importantly is purple in sector 1. But this is where we may get, forced into this a little bit of. Sure, a car might be purple in sector 1, a car might be purple in sector 2, etc. But the thing is, around here, the car might make quite a lot of the difference. So your car might be better in sector 1. I think the Audi's quite good. It's obviously good on turning and stuff. When you get onto the Duttingerhoe, probably going to lose out just a little bit in comparison. So in that sense, you've got to make them the most you can of these first couple of sectors and the rise up the hill.
Yeah, and anything can happen in between.
Absolutely.
So
that's where the driver makes the difference.
He is making a wonderful lap, though. I really hope that he can actually finish it in time.
I do believe he should be able. With 4 minutes 20 seconds, I think he'll be good for about like a minute as well on the clock. The only race that I've actually ever done around here on RaceRoom was, like I said, was in this Nürburgring race where we did it at the event at the Nürburgring in 2018, and I drove a Mercedes in that, and the Audi behind was much faster than me, and I don't mean a little, like a couple of seconds. I mean he was a lot faster than me, but still couldn't get past because this is where like I would always try and take a car that's quicker in a straight line, because around here, yes, you can pass in the corners if you're aggressive enough, if you're willing to take the risk. But if you get by at the wrong point, someone's just going to slipstream you on the Duttingerhoe, or they're just going to slipstream you even on the rise out of Bergwerk up to sort of like the carousel section up there. So you've got to be very, very careful and very mindful. And that's why qualifying is so, so important. Got to make up a second to go and grab pole position, and things are looking pretty decent at the moment with a purple sector 1 and a purple sector 2. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. So the final lap's coming in before we head into a 2.4-hour race around this famous circuit. And you were saying that hopefully they're going to be clean through turn 1 and 2 on the opening lap. It's such a tricky section to nail, because particularly turn 2, it's a very awkward corner, isn't it, especially when you're in the middle of a pack.
Yeah, definitely. You need to take just a perfect line, and well, with 3 or 4 cars wide, you could always also see it in last weekend. It doesn't always go well, especially if somebody in the first corner already broke late or crashed into somebody else. Lines get very tricky there.
Absolutely. The amount of time that Chris van der Zijden's got to make up has increased quite a bit by around about a second, as Kevin Bellens, the Belgian, has crossed the line and set a time even faster, a 8:08.473. Joined on the front row at the moment by Javier Soto and Fabien Guide, who's just gone up into into third position. So, Sebastian Ree has also gotten up into fourth place. So what was looking so great as that lap was unfolding suddenly seems to have fallen by the wayside. But again, this is where you can really commit down into Tiergarten. So the time could potentially be made up. Seeing a lot in chat about all of these community drivers. This is the beautiful thing about it. It's a ranked race, sure, but we've got a lot of communities behind each driver. They're representing not only the Sim as a brand, but also their own respective communities.
Yeah, definitely. And the streamers have actually become influencers, and they carry a lot of the people towards the ranked service, mainly because of their enthusiasm. So they see somebody else driving, and all of a sudden they want to drive there as well.
Really nice lap time there from Chris van der Zijden. Goes up to second place then by 0.006 of a second. That is insanely close. Over 8 minutes of a lap to be separated by such an incredibly small margin. That is fantastically impressive. We see Drovosekov, who's currently on screen, on the Grand Prix loop, so just getting the final bits of practice in. I think with 55 seconds left to go, that may well be at least the front end of the grid sorted. As I just say that, I think it's Ralf Piringer who's just jumped up into 8th place. So some final laps coming in. I don't think pole position's going to be threatened. What a lap time it was from Kevin Bellens. Glad though that we were on board watching the second half of that lap from Chris van der Zijden, because I mean that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Being able to put in a better lap in your second lap. Well, it does prove the better safe than sorry. So first a slightly slower lap, but then just go for it and actually get to P2. Well done.
Fantastic work. So we've got the 2.4-hour race just about to begin then, as we'll take a look at the grid. Some drivers will be a little bit disappointed with being a little bit lower, but some representing cars that are certainly unfavourable around here. We've got the McLaren and the Porsche being quite far down the grid. We do have another Porsche on there, by the way, of Boris Schmidt, who's currently in 25th position. Do love seeing people taking a bit of a risk and just taking their favoured car around here, whether it's the fastest or not, and ignoring the BOP side of things. Of all of the cars on the grid, what would you pick?
Probably the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo.
Mostly because for me it's quick in a straight line, so I'll take that.
Well, actually, for me, it's just the stability of the car.
Right.
I'm not really a GT3 driver. I'd much rather drive the WTCR or any other front-wheel driven car. But if I do jump in, most of the time it has become the Mercedes. It is just so very stable. And I don't know if you noticed it, but 32 players out of 34 have set a valid lap time.
Yeah, really fantastic stuff. I think if you keep opinions like that, we're going to get along. I'm more of a touring car driver myself as well. Right, well, 2.4 hours of racing then, ready to get underway. We'll see the drivers all join the grid and we'll be ready to get underway. RaceRoom ranked racing here at the Nordschleife for 2.4 hours. Kevin Bellens, who's currently on pole position from Chris van der Zijden. Let's get underway then at the Nordschleife. Here we go, and that run down towards turn one does seem like it has been a great launch from the Mercedes of Bellens, who's going to be clearly leading down into turn one. There's Chris van der Zijden, who's diving it to the inside of the other Audi that's just on his inside. That one, Sebastian Ree, as they're going side by side through that opening section, seems clean from the front lot. I don't know what it's like down in the mid-pack, but I think we are underway nicely.
Looked like a few people did get into an incident, but not too many.
I believe Kirill Sokovikov, I was looking earlier, I'm pretty sure he is the highest ranked person on RaceRoom, if I remember correctly. Not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. Just saw it on a leaderboard, so I'm not 100% sure myself, as we have him on screen. There's Javier Soto, who's had a decent start to the race, has got up into second position, but it's mostly Kevin Bellens who's really running away now. I mean, this is a smart move. He's had a clean start and has got through that really awkward and tricksy turn 1 and 2, and is now a second clear at the moment. And Javier Soto is going to go really on the attack to try and close down the Mercedes and just try and stick in the slipstream and be a little bit patient, the Spaniard that is currently on our screen. The rest of the order behind, van der Zijden and Fabian Guide with Sebastian Ree as well. Ilya Drovosekov, I believe, is quite close, as we're seeing Soto being attacked by van der Zijden. I think van der Zijden was trying to make a move, stick going up into the chicane, but no way through at the moment. Little bit slow there on the exit of the Grand Prix loop, so not ideal for the Spaniard.
And a lot of action going on throughout the entire field. They're all very close together still. And it does look like we have lost one driver, Henrik Andreasen.
Yeah, the Norwegian driver that was looked quite fast in, or decently fast in practice prior to this, but I don't think had the greatest qualifying. So, of the 34 cars, I do believe, yes, we have lost one, and we are down to 33. Onto the green hell itself then for the first time, as the drivers will be really showing what they have best to display. And those drivers that have got punchier cars in a straight line will be trying to get slipstream off those that are better through this end of the racetrack. Up and over Flugplatz for the first time. Van der Zijden is really on the attack, qualified onto the front row, will be disappointed to drop off of it on that run down into turn one. Just did not have the greatest launch. But this is looking pretty tasty coming down into Schwedenkreuz, and might potentially dive into Arenberg if he can get around the outside. But no, the Spaniard's going to hold firm, lifting off a little bit. That might open the door for Gade as well behind, as there's a little bit of a dive as well from Sebastian Ree. Really is fantastic to see them going up and over the curbs and really pushing it to their limit. Again, super tight. Maybe a little bit of a mistake there from the BMW behind Van der Zijden. Once running into Ardenau Forst for the first time. It's a 1.1 second lead at the moment for Bellens, who hasn't quite made the progress over the opening stage of the Green Hell that I would have expected, has not pulled out the largest gap. Most of that was pulled going through the Grand Prix loop as they're all picking their way through. Got a dive bomb spot here into Canonhard. I don't think anyone's going to be close enough at the moment to take full advantage, he says, as Fabian Gink was almost thinking about it. But so far, touch wood, everything looks pretty clean, Chris.
Yeah, especially in the top 25. I did see a couple of smaller incidents. Oh, Sebastian
Oh, there's a big one in the background.
That's Sebastian Ree combined with Rolf Heringer, who was in a collision there. Broke quite a few places. But he's luckily still driving.
Okay, talk to me about, like, because obviously you'll know a little bit more in this side than me. Damage on these cars. What can they kind of expect from damage? How bad can it get?
Well, it can really get bad, especially if you hit barriers quite hard. You can hurt the suspension. Eventually, you could damage the body itself, losing a little bit of speed during the aerodynamics that are just completely gone. And if you really push it hard enough, you can actually damage the engine or the tires, which means that you will have a flat. Well, that does not really drive well.
Yeah, and around here, one thing you really, really do not want is any of that. Dennis Shimmy is currently on screen in the Callaway, which I do think is a fantastic car. I do like I know the rear wing is controversial in the fact that it dips down the side, but I actually think it looks really good. As you can see at the front of this, that's Jonas Decker, who's really, really slowing things down. And this Packers, wow, what a move around the outside from Dennis Shimmy. The other Callaway as well from behind is also going for a move. That was the pole that was just trying to make up a move of Castle and didn't quite get it completed. But this pack is looking dangerous as the BMW goes for an absolute send. That was Alexander Krug on Pavlicek.
That was quite close, actually.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure I would have gone for that. Good effort, though.
Well, good save, but yeah, I hope he got a new pair of underwear.
Yes, brave stuff indeed. This is exactly what we're going to expect to see, because obviously you've got the concertina effect. So as into the braking zones, everyone's going to come together, especially when they're struggling with confidence over the early sections of this race. We've got Marvin Mackenberg, who's now really at the head of this train. Jonas Decker is going on the attack, and we saw a fantastic move from Dennis Shimmy. I wonder if he's going to try and do a very similar thing here as we run up and over the crests around the back end of the circuit before heading towards the start-finish straight. And onto the Duttinger Hoa before that, which will be a fantastic display for the Mercedes. Is a little bit out of fashion, was Jonas Decker. Nearly the door was opened going through Brunchen. Obviously YouTube corner, one we've seen many a crash at before in many a communities of the Nordschleife. But no way through at the moment. He is looking feisty. I am liking the aggression though. It's brave stuff.
Yeah, he's definitely putting the pressure on and keeping it steady as well. He's not sliding all over the place. He just picks his line, gets on his tail and tries to get as close as possible.
Yeah, fantastic to see the opening lap of this race. Yeah, who is that who's gone off Luciano. In a big way? Luciano Wittfurt, one of the more experienced drivers, at least from an esports sense of things, going for an enormous slide and having quite an effect with the barrier running through the exit of the Stefan Beloff S. Not a great way to see a car in the early stages. There's one that's been on the attack, saw that almost mistake, I guess, from Alexander Krug, but clearly going on the attack. He was in chat a little bit earlier saying he was pretty impressed with his qualifying, and now going on the attack in the race. I'm pretty sure he's going to be pretty impressed with what's going on at the moment.
Still a lot of action going on, but unfortunately Luciano dropped back to position 33, currently last. But there you can see one small mistake has an enormous impact on your standings.
look at the grunt of this Mercedes AMG ahead. You've got Sebastian Rey, who's currently the focus of our attention in that Audi R8, who's slipstreamed alongside the Callaway of Dennis Shimmy, but realistically does back out as Jonas Decker, so just trying to allow things to unfold in a natural fashion. But then cutting across the BMW as well. That was Ornelas, the Portuguese driver. That was a little bit touch and go for me, because that can cause a very, very high speed wreck, but they all seem to be fine as we complete the first lap of racing.
Yeah, so far just one person not driving and 33 drivers still driving. That's, well, considering it is roughly 5 laps for normal tracks, that is quite impressive as well.
Gap for the lead back under a second as Javier Sato's going on the attack of Kevin Belland in the early stages of this race. So this quartet that's currently leading things, they've been spread out over the first lap, but as things have come together, obviously the slipstream on the Duttinger would have affected it. Even at this distance, it will bring things back together. But this was the area of the racetrack that Kevin Belland did really pull out on lap 1. Yes, of course they were all battling, but there was a costly mistake from Javier Soto that really did sort of split this pack up. Wonder if there's going to be a similar mistake and if that is weighing on his mind. Chris van der Zijden, who's currently the focus of our attention, with Fabian Guide directly behind, of a 2.4 second gap from Ralf Piringer, who was involved in that incident a little bit, coming through miss hit miss. He's got Ilya Drovosekov and Kirill Sokovikov directly behind him and looking to go on the attack. Anyone who's a little bit off at the moment, anyone who's a few seconds off of the race lead right now, I wouldn't be panicking. I don't know about you, I'm not panicking. It's a long race and mistakes are definitely going to happen.
Yeah, and you can see already a couple of mistakes happened and they lost a lot of positions, but I will not give up even after dropping to the last place, simply because the race is so incredibly long. So many things will happen. It's not just can happen, but it will happen. And it is it's an intensive track as well. It's not just 18, 19 laps, just laps, but it is really focused driving.
It is intensity that I don't think I could match. I'd love to do a proper 24 around the Nordschleife one day, but that is just in sim racing terms, by the way. That's not me just saying, I'd love to do it in real life. Everyone would, of course we would. But in sim racing terms even, but I don't have the attention span to be able to hit this again and again and again and again. It is incredibly difficult. So, like I say, fantastic in the opening lap for all these drivers, but to nail it for the next 2 hours and 10 minutes is going to be incredibly hard to do through Schwedenkreuz into Arenberg, and a little bit of a defensive line from Ralf Piringer, and Ilya Drovosekov isn't really close enough to take any sort of advantage, but a fairly wide line behind from Kirill Sokovikov that's really going to stop him from closing down on the 2 ahead of him right now, as back to the battle for the podium, and very much in this is Fabian Guide. No way through though.
They're all 3 very close for P2.
Not even that far off the race leader, all things considered. So yeah, we're still on. We're still on for this.
Oh yeah, I mean Kevin has a small lead, but there is absolutely no room for any mistake at all.
You say you've not got too much experience, or sorry, rather, that GT3s are not really your preference when it comes to cars. How much racing around the Nordschleife have you done?
Yeah, probably more than my pace shows.
Ah, I see. Should I not ask too many more questions?
No, but I'm not even ashamed of it. I mean, some people just, they drive around the track for maybe 4, 5 or 6 laps, and they know everything. I've been learning it for quite a few years now. Well, not that many actually, but I'm always still learning. And even after doing the Cupra last year in the WTCR and now doing it again for purely the Cupra competition, I'm amazed that you can, every time that you go onto the track, you find something new. You just never stop learning. And especially if you then switch from car to car, each and every car behaves differently.
I was always told when I started in sim racing as a driver a very, very long time ago, so you know I'm becoming an old man in that sense, was to never just stick with one car, because you stop learning things. You learn that car to its limit, fair enough, but you kind of just, in a sense, stop. If you're constantly on the attack, in that if you're trying different cars, even if it's different touring cars, like you say, they all kind of drive slightly differently. But if you go to drive GTs, try and drive different GTs, try and drive the Porsche, etc. Just try something slightly different, because you will learn stuff and it will improve your driving overall as a whole. And that's what we're all here to do. We're all learning to get better. We're all making that step bit by bit. With experience comes not only time, but also racecraft and, to be honest, fun.
Oh, definitely. I mean, some tracks are, well, you always have your preferences and dislikes when it comes to tracks. But every time you just jump into the sim or real car and go on track, that sensation that you feel, that the butterflies in your stomach to just go out and drive and learn, eager to learn. And of course, when it comes to it, eager to win a podium position.
Absolutely. We're all, I mean, look, we're all here to win. I think we all get that. Fair enough. It is a thing, but we're all here to have fun. And it's not to be that whole cliche of if we're all having fun, then we're all winning. Because let's be honest, you know, each to their own on that. But I've always said this. That I think some of the most enjoyable races that I've had have been the ones where I've not been fighting for victory, because you have that pressure lifted off you. You just enjoy the race itself. But especially around here, the track's pressure enough, don't.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on some tracks you can have battles all the way, well, maybe one or two corners where you can't really fight, but this one is so much different. It's mostly just focusing mainly on the track itself, and then of course you need to have a heads up if in case of an incident in front of you, because you are there in a blink of a second. I mean, 240 kilometers per hour, and if something happens just 0.5 seconds ahead of you, you really need to be awake and try and avoid what's going on.
Absolutely. That is where I've always been told that, you know, that experience is the key. Because if you get this sixth sense that something's about to happen ahead of you, you're just all like, these people are battling quite hard, so I get something, or that car's a little bit oversteered. That's not looking ideal. So you kind of understand that as a whole. You kind of think, okay, I'm ready for when they make a mistake, because let's be honest, it's probably on the horizon. Either way, of course, we're about to complete the second lap of racing, but whilst everyone's watching us through here, there is stuff which even you at home can do. I hope you've got your keyboards all ready as we're watching the battle for third. This will be Fabian Guy going for the podium at the moment, as Chris van der Zijden's going to relinquish or have that position relinquished from him. And down to fourth, the BMW on the attack, as Javier Soto's end to the lap seems very, very impressive. Same as it was in the previous one, as all the positions are being switched and turned around as we're running through the Duttinger for that second time. You can play for your own bits of VRP. We have codes that will be given out throughout the broadcast. First one is currently on your screen. Go and get that typed in. It's a lot of codes. So get your keyboards ready, because that, you've got to be quick to type in. Quick on the track, quick on the keyboard as well.
Yeah, it's just not just a race on the green hell as well, on the keyboard.
I'm not quick enough to type that. The thing is, though, obviously being on stream, you can't just highlight it and Control-C, Control-V. You've actually got to go out and get it done. So go and get your VRP, and also get onto the race. There's plenty of ranked racing happening on RaceRoom Racing Experience, so you can all get involved. Ivanov there, I believe, in the McLaren, is going on the attack, because whilst we're focused on everything happening towards the front, there are battles down towards the back of the pack that, to be honest, they're only 28 seconds off. This may well end up being the battle towards a bit further forward in the race, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if something just happens now in the front of the pack and knocks out a few players, then they will be the ones that are driving in front. Or maybe they are even on on a one-stopper or a zero-stopper maybe even.
I think a zero stopper might be a little bit intense. That's a lot of fuel saving, or a very big tank. The difference between a one-stop and a two-stop, I was told prior to this, another member of the community that's obviously one of those streamers and influencers, Daniel Finney, so DDF Racer, I'm sure quite a few people are getting to know him now. He was telling me that he tried the one-stop this morning, and it was not good. It was a fine strategy. It got him third position in his race, but in comparison, it just was not the fastest option. Doing a two-stop and just going on the attack is, or at least seems to be, the fastest option around here.
Yeah, I mean, if you drive alone, then you could adjust to it and just set a relatively low pace. But if you're in such a tight fit like this, the pressure will always be on. Otherwise, you'll end up last. And if you can draft a little bit, slipstream here and there, then yeah, but as soon as somebody else is going into the pit, then you will lose all that momentum, and yeah, I don't think it's really worth it, especially if you want to end up as high as possible.
Absolutely not. The Audi, by the way, just behind this, that is Luciano Wittfer, who we saw having his issue a little bit earlier. So he's been off the road. He's been for a spin. That one's coming through the Stefan Beloff S. But obviously, he's not pulled out of the race. He's not called it quits. He's going on the attack, and certainly seems to be doing so. Knows he should be a little bit further up the grid, the Ballast Racing driver. So let's see what you've got. Why not? This is where you have a fun race, because you're on the attack. You're on you're on the back foot in this sense, but you can just enjoy what you're doing. Around here, though, you've got to have supreme confidence in the car to know where to make a move, because sure, you can slipstream on the Duttinger Hoa, fine, no problem. But where else do you make a move? Because that's only going to do you one car a lap, and even if you're on the back of them, you need to be doing more than that.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, but he's got a lot of experience on Nordschleife as well as any other track. So compared to the slightly slower, I wouldn't really call it slower drivers, but you know, their pace is slightly lower than he was aiming for. But the moment that he sees the opportunity, he will definitely take it.
What's your favourite place to make a move around here? And you can't say the Duttinger Hoa, you can't say it.
Yeah, sorry.
As easy as it is, there we go. There is a quality move. Down the inside goes Luciano Wittfer and has made it work.
I mean, that cojones.
Yeah, yeah, that is brave. That is brave stuff. I've always been a bit of a fan of, as we're seeing some tight stuff ahead between Vosler and Tadej Ivanov. The Bulgarian driver just going on the attack in the McLaren. That I think is the only McLaren that we've got on the grid. So fantastic to see trying to make a move on one of the few Bentleys that we've got running around the circuit. But I've always been a bit of a, I like the move around the outside of Schwebenkreuz into the inside of Arenberg. I always feel that that is the ultimate move, because it's brave. It looks really cool. It's actually not as hard as it looks. He says.
I mean, as long as you, I mean, I usually just observe the driver in front of me and get to know where he starts to brake and what his pace is like, and just do the mental game of driving. Well, especially if I know that I won't be going further up, then I will only be aiming for the driver in front of me. But I don't know. I mean, this track, you just need to control the car so well. And I mean, look at how Luciano is doing it. I mean, fantastic.
It really is. Good effort to get by the McLaren of Ivanov there before we hit Nürburgring, but he's missed the apex there, so might be under a fair amount of pressure from the 650 behind. A potential dive around this section of the circuit could be very, very costly indeed. I think it's done enough to keep the McLaren at bay, though. You can see there's obviously from the incident that he had, there is some contact on the front end of Luciano Wittfer's car, which isn't going to be helping things, although it doesn't seem to be hindering too much at the moment. The car seems fairly pacey. I'd just be curious if he's going to lose time, particularly on the straights, particularly coming through Galgenkopf, because obviously the damage that he's got there is on the front end. If that's going to make it understeery, it's potentially one of the things that's going to affect him more and more as the stint goes on, burning out the front tyres, not being able to attack quite as much.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, for now, he still has a lot of traffic in front of him that he can profit from, especially on the long straight, where you really need to slipstream if you want to go faster, and then he could make that move, and then during the track itself, just work his way up to the next driver, and slowly but surely get back up to, well, probably P15, P10.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily rule a position like that. He's made 2 positions on this lap. Might well be a 3rd here if he goes around the outside. It wasn't even fought that hard. So Vosler just kind of got out of the way, recognised the pace of Luciano Wittfurt, sidestepped, and just allowed him to continue. You know, you're going quick. You do what you're doing. Not going to risk my race. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. But as he is working his way up to the traffic, let's take a closer look at the midfield, because there are a few groups of people driving together, trying to survive.
Yeah, indeed. I think that was a bit of a mistake from Alexander Krug, because we rejoined them coming through the smaller. What do we call the smaller carousels? The Klein's carousel. I actually don't know. Or Cleans. Don't know. That's a question that we are going to get in a lot of trouble for. So fantastic. We've insulted all of the Nordschleife fans. But yeah, either way, I think it was a mistake from Alexander Krug. Obviously going straight on the attack, and this time being pushed through as well, as I think that might be DTR Kalman going on the attack and potentially going to clear the both of them in that Audi, but potentially going to lift out of making the move on Alexander Krug. But if you're Pavlicek in that kind of scenario and you're having 2 drivers basically bump drafting as there is a mistake from Alexander Krug himself, there's nothing you can do. You could be on the fastest car on the planet. There's nothing you can do when you've got 2 people working with each other like that.
Indeed.
Kelman going to dive it to the inside, although might back out. Alexander Krug's made a couple of mistakes in the last few corners and has certainly opened the door on a few occasions, but this time was as good as gold down into turn 1, so does keep at bay the Audi that's on the attack. And I get it that, you know, for the lead maybe things are starting to spread out. I would be very, very surprised, though, if we don't see battling like this almost throughout the entirety of this race. And yes, that is jinxing it, but I'm brave enough to even do that in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the field and the paces they are driving, I mean, in qualification you could always also see it that they were quite close. And during the race, yeah, I think they will probably keep it up. Of course, there are a few people that have gone out of each other, especially between P7 and P12. There is a lot more gaps in between, but they are more hot lapping right now than really racing. But I mean, just one pit stop and it all changes again.
Absolutely, and those pit stops will be coming. I'd suspect we're obviously not expecting them any time shortly, as once again DTR Kalman's trying to find a way before we head on to the Green Hell once again, and that would be ideal for his Audi R8 to try and find a way through on the 4th lap of the race, but not quite yet. More obviously expecting a pit stop in sort of, I'd say, 20 minutes time. I'm going to say probably about 3 laps. We'd be expecting that kind of pit stop, because we are already half an hour, well, nearly half an hour through this race, I believe. So the timer's ticking away pretty quickly, naturally, as you do around the Nordschleife, because the lap's so long that you kind of think, oh, I've only done 5 laps. Oh, well, that's actually a long time.
Yeah, especially on a long track like this. I mean, it's so easy to just mistake, oh, it's just 1 more lap, or oh, it's just 3 more laps. Yeah, hold on. That is quite longer than you would expect.
Yeah, don't worry, Mum. I'll be going to bed in a minute. I've got a couple more laps than Nordschleife.
Just 1 more lap.
Don't worry. Yeah, that whole thing. By the way, whilst all this is happening, I believe this happened on the Duttingenhoe but Chris van der Zijden did get up into second position, so he has returned to the position that he started the race in, did get by Javier Soto. Obviously they're keeping Fabien Guide behind. Let's take a look if DTR Kaelman, though, can go around the outside of Alexander Krug. This is the move I was talking about. Oh, it's so tight between the two. Absolutely thrown it in the mid, though, even potentially too far. He is going straight on at Arenberg, and he is gone and into the barrier. That was predictable.
He was still driving, though. I mean, it could have gone far more worse than this.
Absolutely. I mean, being able to just carry on, fair enough, but you could tell even from that line through Schweden, because he took way too much speed in from such a narrow line, didn't allow any move around the outside, and that kind of scenario, when you're on the grass, you try and touch the brake pedal, nothing's going to happen. There is no way you can stop the car in that scenario. Good effort and well driven by DTR Kaelman, who says it says underscore VR, so I'm going to assume he's going to race this in VR. So you know, I've always spoken before, we've got various different ways that people drive, whether it's on single screens, triples, VR, and RaceRoom is one of the more accepting in a sense of running VR content. So like, I've never raced in VR, but I am told that it's very, very helpful in situations like that of understanding the bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, you're not just... I mean, if you're driving on one screen especially, you have to manually go towards the left or the right, and with all the buttons already and the racing going on, how many times are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You just have to rely on the radar, in most of the cases at least, to actually feel... well, see if somebody's around you. And if you already have 3 triples screens, then you get a more sense of what's going on around you. But with VR, you're not bound to just the horizon, but you can watch it all around you. It's
I
not
think
for
it just...
everyone, but yeah.
No, I mean, so I've always liked the idea of VR, except in summer. Not a fan of that, because that sounds hot when you're doing endurance racing. I've always felt that I would probably more prefer triple screens, but VR is one of those things that is a fantastic thing for sim racing, as we're seeing DTR Kaelman once again going on the attack, this time on Geisler, and this looks like it could be an interesting move. It's a bit tight on the cut across of the Mercedes before we went through Mutkirber. That was brave, fantastic, and certainly, regardless whether or not, even if he is running VR or not, great spatial awareness, because that was timed very, very well from the Spaniard of DTR Kaelman.
Definitely a very good move, and well, luckily Misha is also very competent in driving, so he did not lose control. He was not too scared. He just kept his line, kept going, and avoided any incidents.
The top 2, by the way, I'll talk about the top 3 more so in this scenario, because they are actually pulling away a fair amount from Fabien Guide at the moment. Kevin Bellens is coming under a little bit of pressure. It is kind of chopping down a fair amount at the moment. There is damage on the front end of that car as well. On the front left, there is an awful lot of damage on that Mercedes.
Oh, indeed.
Absolutely going to be costing him time. Not 100% sure where that happened, because he hasn't lost that much time. I don't understand how this much time has been lost, because it seems like it's been a much larger incident. Clearly has bonked a wall at some point on the run round. Potentially, I was going to say potentially on the exit of the Mutkirber, but it's on the wrong side. It's the only kind of place that I can think of hitting a barrier quite hard without actually losing that much time, because everywhere else, if you're going to hit the barrier, you're losing an awful lot. Either way, for Kevin Bellens at the moment, seems to be okay, as the gap's kind of holding or maybe even growing a little bit to van der Zijden directly behind. Javier Soto, though, almost seems like he doesn't quite have the pace to catch the Dutchman.
Oh, we've got the spin.
Oh, no.
Oh, scary place to spin, actually.
Yeah, this is just coming down into Flansgarden, so not an ideal one. There's another one ahead as well. Alexander Krug, oh, he has gone. One of the drivers that we saw some attacking did see and noted, I believe even at the start of this lap, that had made a few too many mistakes, and there is even more as the Austrians coming through of Florian, and that was a little bit elbows out. Not sure who by, but it was elbows out regardless.
Seems like there's another yellow flag in front of them, but I'm not entirely sure why.
I mean, everyone looks okay, but you can get a yellow flag around here, and it's over
Chris
such
Williams.
Oh, had he
Chris
fallen through
Williams
the
lost
world?
control. Connection. I think he lost connection.
That is a shame. That is a shame. The next one, though, being passed by DTR Kelman is Marvin Mackenberg, who's now dropped down to 15. DTR Kelman is absolutely on a charge right now. Fantastic stuff.
He's now on position 14. Incredible. And Luciano is also in another battle.
Yeah, speaking of Callaways under pressure from an Audi, this one, of course, being Simon Huber and Luciano Wittfurt behind, but you've got Ismail Rosal, who obviously went for that spin, so he's also got a bit of the red mist and wanting to go on the attack. Who was that? I think that's Roko Tabi, who's into the pit lane for a pit stop. The first one to jump in and take it, as Luciano Wittfurt's made that dive. Is he going to make the second apex for turn 2, though? That's really the tricky one in this scenario. You've got Ismail Rosal, who's also going for the cutback to try and get by the Callaway, desperate to clear before exiting the Grand Prix section of the racetrack. Great stuff again from Luciano Wittfurt, though. Again, like just putting it to one piece, was 33rd at one point, now up to 20th, inside that top 20. What were you saying, 15th?
Yeah, minimum. And that's not putting
minimum,
pressure on him, that's just his pace. I mean, yes, he lost a lot of time there, but he's also gained a lot of time. So, yeah, it's... Oh, looks like Rolf Pieringer also got in a collision there and lost position to Kirill Sokovikov.
Yeah, I think Kirill Sokovikov runs for... I think he's a Lada Sport Rosenef driver. Might be... Oh, he's made a mistake. Regardless, there is Ralph Pieringer. Don't fully remember myself. I'm sure I'll get corrected at some point. It does say Lada Sport Roseneft on screen, so we'll go with that. For Kirill Sokovikov, of course, teammates of the likes of Kirill Antonov, and for anyone who knows elsewhere in sim racing, I believe he's been driving with them. Yiga Rogorognikov and various others are part of this outfit of very strong young Russian drivers. They are some proper talents coming through. Sometimes show a little bit too much aggression for their own good, but they are a very, very promising group of young individuals. It is always amusing, though, to see Lada Sport Roseneft on random cars like Cupras or BMWs or whatever else. I've seen it on Callaways and whatnot. So I think most recently it's an Aston Martin I've seen it on. So you know, it's interesting, but this is the joy of having teams and stuff, and the joy of having manufacturer-backed teams in sim racing is becoming a very common thing. Even from a more casual sense, we are seeing it more and more. Oh, yeah, that's a huge one from Schultz.
Well, that's one way for Luciano to gain another position, but I don't think he was expecting that.
Probably the easiest one he'll make. The car just it's not in front of you anymore. It's fine. Luciano Wittfurt, how long until the next car? He's got a long gap to the next car, 14.5 seconds before he catches Chris Williams, who's the next one on the road. But then if he can get that gap down, it's then 3 seconds to the next car, sure, but then it's a second, a second, a second, a second. So if he can breach that gap, that's where the top 15 is very much in view. Just needs to start setting some very, very good lap times to try and close that down. No idea how long it's going to take to catch, or potentially even utilising an earlier pit stop to try and go really on the attack.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just on him, but also the others. As long as he can keep the car going and find his pace, then he's definitely settled for P15 minimum.
Yeah, but the thing is in this scenario, as there's a dive from Ismail Rosal to grab another position. That one's on Huber down into Calenard. In that scenario, you get to 33rd. You think your instant thing is like, right, I'm going to keep going. If I get a top 20, I'll be happy. Then you get into the top 20. You think, no, if I get a top 15, I'll be happy. And it's like, then the next thing, then he'll be looking at it down the road and think, oh, I can get a top 10 here. If I don't get that, I'm not going to be happy. So it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, it's a way to improve yourself and to just keep going, and you need to find a lot of fun as well, especially when you drop down so much. It can be really a downer, and just, you know, it's a mental game with yourself you're playing to make sure that you actually keep on going.
Absolutely. It's you've almost got to use as much as 2.4 hours is for a single driver is very much on the endurance spectrum. Not really an endurance race, but you do have to channel that endurance spirit of I am going to finish this race regardless, because it's not for any sort of prize money in that sense. You know, if you're just trying to finish, you're not racing for anything. You're not racing for broadcast time. You're not racing for this. You're not racing for that. You are just racing for the pure satisfaction of finishing the race, which is something which is kind of almost easy to say. Oh yeah, I'll just finish the race, but it's so taxing mentally to just constantly be telling yourself, no, we are going to get to the end. By the way, I do believe by the markings that we had in the moot curve there, I'm pretty sure someone went off and hit the barrier not very far ahead of Simon Huber, who's currently on screen. I don't think it was Ismail Rosal, but certainly one of the cars not far ahead might have a bit of front-end damage. We'll have to wait and see if anyone jumps on that one a little bit later. Bit of a note, by the way, the gap for the lead has absolutely rocketed down. Oh no, that's Ralf Piringer going for a pirouette. That's not great. That car has seen better days. It's not pretty on the front end and hasn't been for a good few corners.
No, that hurts.
See, that is going to hurt. Okay, right. So we've spoken about damage, how much it can affect you. How much can you deal with that in the pit stop? How much can you repair it? Do you know, or do you just kind of have to suffer through?
There is a visual damage repair, so it could get repaired, but it costs a lot of time. So you really have to wonder if it's worth it. I mean, usually when I have damage, as long as it's not terminal or almost broken, even if my suspension is down by towards 50 or 25% even, I will probably keep on driving instead of losing so much time, because you need to win that time back in every pit stop you make, and especially if you've got repairs, it just takes so much time.
Yeah, I think in that scenario you have to hope that other people get more damage, but let's be real here with Ralf Piringer's car. He's had a couple of issues here. I don't know if the car is looking this sketchy purely from the damage, but it is looking a little bit sketchy as Sebastian Rie's going on the attack and might make this one stick up towards Tiergarten, but does back out of it and doesn't fancy diving the BMW. That is a time to have, and Sebastian Rie also goes into the barrier. Piringer way too early on turn in, clips the barrier, and that is unfortunately a fairly embarrassing mistake.
Yeah, he's going into the pit.
No surprise. No, absolutely not. That was a hard hit. I'm sure there'll be some very solid Fs in chat for that one, because yeah, certainly one of those scenarios that is fairly rare, but they can happen. This is Jonas Decker, who was very much defending earlier. He was at the head of quite an intense train, trying to just basically pick their way through and figure their scenario out in the early stages of the race, but alas has found his footing, a little bit of confidence gained, and now potentially going on the attack himself. It's the Portuguese driver of Bruno Ornelas directly ahead, so Mercedes against BMW. I'm not sure if there's going to be an immediate pass. These two are quite quick in the straight line, so in that sense, you've got to be brave with trying to make this move.
Yeah, it all comes down to the exit of the corner and the pressure that he's feeling. Can the Beamer just ignore the pressure, or will Jonas get faster? There is a 0.5 second difference between, well, no, sorry, 0.2 difference between their last lap, which was for both of them the best lap so far.
Absolutely. We've got, by the way, at the moment, we have 5 gaps that are under a second. The battle for 19th position, Gerd Schulze and Ismail Rosal. We've got this, the battle for 15th, 16th and 14th, because Marvin Mackenberg has now just come within a second of Radek Pavlicek. You've got Misha Geisler that's directly behind this. We also have that battle that we were seeing between Jonas Decker and Bruno Ornelis. We also have Gerasimos Cassel and Christian Gröter. But I did just spot, coming under a second, has gone slightly back out ahead of it though, the battle for the lead. Kevin Bellens and Chris van der Zijden. Very, very close now. Chris is absolutely on the attack, isn't he? He's really wrestling this car around, and after a not so great start to the race, dropping back a couple of positions in the early stages, whilst we approach this first pit stop sequence, which I kind of get the vibe we may well see them enter the pit lane, maybe this lap, maybe next one, depending on if they're going 1 stop or 2 stops, as that's ambitious. Van der Zijden is right there, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's keeping Xavier Soto on 1.5 to 2 seconds behind him, and keeps getting closer and closer to Kevin, who had a lead of 3 seconds but is now down to half. So I'm wondering if it is Chris who's having a lot of pace right now, or if it is Kevin who is losing a little bit of pace.
Love to see a little bit of the onboard commitment from Chris van der Zijden to just see how he is wrestling this car. Let's take a little bit of a ride as we come down the hill through miss, hit, miss on that run into Forsyth, and you can see there the yellow Mercedes of Bellens, the driver that he is focused on. Fancy for him though, it's quite a bright car, so it's one that's hard to lose sight of. Keeping in tow, keeping in check at this point, you're seeing 2 drivers really, really wrestling these cars around. They're not making many mistakes. Of course, we do have this contact, this damage on the front end of the Mercedes ahead. Not sure where it came from. It doesn't seem to be halting the progress of Kevin too much. But we're seeing 2 drivers really, really on the limit, and fantastic to be able to see them doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And the last lap was very close as well, just 0.1 difference, and that could be enough to get the pressure on and make somebody make a mistake.
Let's see this rise up, especially towards Mutkova, where we're going to see the real intense end, this exceptionally fast left-hander, where I've seen a few moves made. Obviously, we're a bit far away for that. I think there's been a couple of mistakes. Certainly saw one at Ardenau Forst from Chris van der Zijden. So just dropping a little bit, a couple of tenths here, a couple of tenths there. But it did seem to be more so the latter section of the racetrack as we run through Mutkova here. It's the final sort of bit around sort of Flansgaard and around the Stefan Beloff S, around Galgenkopf. That's where time is made a little bit from the Audi. And also the closer that you get, of course, going on to the Duttinger Horus, there's a little bit of a mistake from Bellens there before we get to the carousel. If the closer you get, the easier it gets, isn't it? Because you get in that slipstream, you start getting pulled along, so you start going faster anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is, especially as closer you get, the more confident you also can get. Just to keep on the pressure on, not just on the guy in front of you, but on yourself as well. Just to keep on performing without pressuring too much, because that's always a pitfall. If you just put up too much pressure on yourself and the other driver, you actually lose control.
I want to thank everyone as well for coming out to watch this. We've got plenty of people watching and keeping their eye on this ranked race. And my question to you then, Chris, is let's say I'm a brand new driver. How do I get started on ranked racing? Where do I go?
Well, the first thing you can do is just try out every car. There is always a free option to check out the car and see what cars you actually like. The schedule of ranked racing changes every Thursday to a completely new combination of cars and tracks. And if you think that it is something for you, then the easiest thing you can do is just to get the starter pack. The starter pack is only €10 and will get you started on the rookie service to experience exactly this. And the more confident you grow and the more reputation and rating you gain, the easier the next step is to get some more content specifically for what you like. But that's the beauty of RaceRoom in that regard. It's so easy to just get new content, and you don't have to buy everything at once if you're not sure if you want to buy it. It's just really easy to just jump into it and get started.
Yeah, especially now with the way that the ranked racing has been growing on RaceRoom recently. We are very much approaching this sort of prime time. So if you want to get involved for the first time, there is no real better time than now. You can head onto Steam and download RaceRoom Racing Experience from there and get yourselves involved in this fantastic group of racing, and also, most importantly from me, this fantastic community that we have. It really is one that's growing constantly, not just from a competitive standpoint, but more just from an enjoyability. That it's just fun. It's engaging to be a part of a community that's engaged in the same hobby, the same sort of spirit that you are.
Oh, definitely, and the Discord has also been growing quite a lot. I mean, it's not that long ago when we reached 10,000 people, and now we're already crossing 12,000 people. It's going so fast. And the ranked drivers in general as well. I mean, last time we were doing the Imola race, which is just 6-7 weeks ago, I think. By then we had around 5,000-ish active drivers, and we're now up to 8,000 drivers. So that's 3,000 drivers more than just a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh, well, maybe RaceRoom's not for me. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't." Again, no better time than just to at least give it a go. It is free to download and just to get on, so why not do it? DTR Kelman here on the attack, and he'll see if he can get by Jonas Decker, and a little bit defensive coming down into the final section. Not able to get through on Jonas Decker yet, and still not able to do so into turn one. Did also notice, though, that Fabian Guide is into the pit lane. That is from 4th position in the BMW, so promoting everyone up a position. But again, like I've said, going on the attack on strategy is Fabian Guide. He's dropped down now to around about 19th position. I still think he is in the pit lane, so obviously it's a long stop around here, as there goes the dive from DTR Kelman, getting by Shimmy, who was on the attack, maybe burnt through his tyres. Still not by Becker, but just on the cusp now of getting inside the top 10. Nice quartet here to battle.
Yeah, definitely. The pressure is on both of them. Well, all 4 of them, really. There's no room for mistake at this moment.
Absolutely, yeah. You cannot afford to, especially not with the pit stop sequence just on the horizon. Absolutely sure that a driver or two on this grid will attempt the one-stop strategy and push it closer towards the middle portion of the race. Here we go from DTR Kelman. This is a driver I don't think is on a one-stop strategy. There's a little bit of contact between him and the Mercedes of Decker, but the move is made into the top 10. There's going to be contact on the rear end that might just spin around the R8. Well held from the pair, just overdid it on the braking portion, did Jonas Decker, and they're both quite lucky to get away with that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with less experienced driver, that would have easily become an incident or even an accident where somebody would spin and, well, probably get a replay and report afterwards. But luckily both drivers have a lot of experience, and their reputation is quite high as well, so they will make sure to be on the edge, but just careful enough.
Right, drivers driving around very, very quickly. What else do we need to be doing quickly? That is right, typing, get yourself ready. New code coming in just a moment, so get yourself ready because it is quite a quick thing you've got to type in. It is a race for it as DTR Kelman has just made that mistake coming up across the nose of Shimmy as well, for good measure. Just going over Flugplatz, that was exceptionally close. I don't think he bonked the barrier that hard, did the Spaniard. Car seems okay, so might well have got away with it, and same did Shimmy. That was so close, and Shimmy is way out of the way. But yes, code on screen, VRP up for grabs. Again, we were speaking about this great way of getting involved with RaceRoom content and RaceRoom action. Well, if you get this code, then it's sort of a gateway in, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 500 VRP. Don't show the VRP spell it. No, it needs to be a little bit of a game. Usually on stream we have a giveaway in a slightly different way, but this is much easier for everyone. It just makes it very low barrier, well, light barrier. But yeah, I mean, 500 VRP can easily get you either a track or a car of choice, and just get started.
Absolutely, I think Shimmy's going on the attack here of Jonas Decker. Also, I think we're closing in. It is half a second at the moment. I don't think it's quite close enough there to be an attack. I am keeping my eye on it. Don't you worry. But Chris van der Zijden and Kevin Belland are both very, very close indeed on that battle for the lead. No pass yet, not quite close enough. They are on the rise up towards Muckkurve now. So we'll have to jump and see if there is going to be a move. Approaching the halfway point of the race. Hour and a half left to go. There it is. Oh, it's going to be close. Is he going to go on the attack? Has he got the inside of Muckkurve? This is the race for the lead. Backs out of it, does the Dutchman. Whoa, that would have been very brave.
Oh, but at least the pressure is definitely on.
I didn't think that he was going to be quick enough to draw level, not with a Mercedes, not up that end of the circuit. So clearly the damage is hindering the Belgian at the moment. But let's be real, Chris van der Zijden is really, really quick around here. Obviously, these two were those that qualified on the front row, back on board with Chris van der Zijden out of the carousel, right in the slipstream of this Mercedes AMG as we head to one of the highest sections on the racetrack. Gets a little bit too close though and has to back out. And now, of course, with the slipstream being a great thing, obviously you've got to deal with your fair amount of dirty air for good measure. And this is the point where you really don't want a car directly ahead of you because it's kind of blocking all of these really, really crucial turn-in points, because a crash around here is almost day done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you lose a lot of speed into the barrier, and, well, we already see a couple of cars that are no longer driving. We only now have 27 drivers, which means we lost 7 drivers in total. And it just got me over in the snap. I mean, especially if you put too much pressure on yourself or the other, an incident is easily create lead.
Absolutely, it's so easy. By the way, whilst riding on board, I don't know if you can kind of check out in the mirror there, particularly the central rear view mirror, that one Mr. Javier Soto is right there. These three, after that sort of battle, after that lifting out from van der Zijden, Soto has really closed in. So the three are very close. Remember, whilst this lot are battling, there is a driver that we do need to keep noted in this scenario. That is Fabian Guide, who's down in 22nd position at the moment. He is driving around by himself at the moment. There's a fair amount, 5 seconds, in fact, of clean air. But he was the driver that was fourth, was a couple of seconds back from this lot. But he's gone for the earliest pit stop to try and go on the attack and try and capitalise on this scenario as we run through Galgenkopf. Now, if you're in this sort of trio for the lead, you're either committed to a 2-stop, you're committed to a 1-stop. That your fate has already been sealed in that front, because you have to save quite a bit of fuel to try and pull off a 1-stop. If you've already seen that someone behind you has pitted that was quite close, do you pit as well?
Ooh, tough one. Oh, that's a good one.
I personally would. I would pit. I would try and cover it off, just to make sure, just to peace of mind. But obviously, the counter to that is if you come into the pit lane, and say, for example, with Fabian, he has dropped into, yes, I said he's got 5 seconds of traffic. He has had to make a move. He has been in the middle of traffic. He has been having to make moves into the pit lane. The two Audis both go. So Kevin Bellens is going to continue to lead, but into the pit lane, we've got Van der Zijden and Soto. We've got this battle between Castle and Grota as we rise up and into the final section. They're still side by side. And you've also got Sebastian Ree in the background, waiting to pick up any pieces in this scenario, but not so yet. Who else is jumping into the pit? All the Audis. Interesting. And a bit of a Mercedes there, just in the foreground. That was Drovosekov into the pit lane. But the Audis seem to be running a little bit more aggressive on fuel.
Yeah, they do.
See if DTR Kaleman comes into the pit lane. Yeah, he is. Oh, that was very close from Jonas Decker as well, with the barrier on the left-hand side. I have seen a few people hit that in my time. It's embarrassing, shall we say. We'll go with embarrassing.
Yeah, but very easy as well.
Oh, so easy. Luciano Vitford as well into the pit lane. So certainly seems like all the Audis are jumping in. But then again, so is everyone else. If you want a two-stop strategy, why not? Ismail Rosal, the next one to come up to the pit lane sequence as well. Greg Schultz directly ahead of him. He's also into the pit lane. You can tell by the speed that's on screen at the moment, above everyone's name. So they're all jumping into the pit lane. Staying out Simon Huber. Of course, our race leader. We've got Kevin Bellens out there. We've got Kirill Sokovikov. We've got that battle between Gerasimoses and Gerasimoses Cassel and Christian Grota that's still going on as everyone's departing from the pit lane. And as I said, into traffic.
Yeah, at least they have some slipstreaming.
This is quite bad, though, for Javier Soto. You see he's instantly going on the attack. This is not great because the driver he was really closely battling with, Van der Zijden, is now ahead of this car, has been lucky enough and fortunate enough to come out of the pit lane ahead of it, but he is not, and he is losing time. Make no mistake, it is out to around about a second. Drive-through penalty for Jonas Decker for speeding in the pit lane. Of course, they do have to obey the pit speed limit, and it's exceptionally easy to come in just that little bit too hot and just exceed the pit speed limit. Oh, as here comes the dive from Javier Soto. He needs to do it and does so. Now he's going to try and close the Audi down ahead.
Another drive-through penalty for DTR Kaleman as well.
That's a shame. That is a shame because DTR Kaleman was on the attack, but it does mean now we get to see him make some more moves. So we won't be wanting for action.
Definitely makes it more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was already quite difficult to predict it, but yeah, this definitely shakes things up.
And it just adds on that pressure now for Kevin Bellens because he's seen that this lot's come through without a penalty, those people that he's battling with. So he now needs to nail that pit stop sequence. And they're going to be coming at him pretty quickly. They're going to be attacking. So you've got to prepare for it as here's two Audis that are working their way up as, oh, that is a dive from Luciano Vitford. That was a fantastic move on DTR Kaleman. Brilliant stuff. Said that Vitford is recovering from that earlier issue as DTR Kaleman goes off the road, but Vitford is now on the charge. Top 10, I'm sure, is up for offer for him. I'm just going to go the whole hog. Luciano Vitford for the top 10. I think that's a bit extreme, but you never know.
Well, as long as he doesn't get a drive-through penalty.
There is that. There is that. They will all have to come into the pit lane. Anyone who's stopped now, they will have to come in one more time as Fabian Guide's going to make the position as well on Huber. So remember, this was the driver that was running around in fourth position, that BMW just ahead. So he is very much a part of the battle that Javier Soto and Chris Van der Zijden is a part of. So we'll need to keep our eye on that gap. And Huber as well has got closing in behind Florian. I'm not sure. I don't think. No, Florin's not stopped at the moment. So Högterlinger is waiting to come into the pit lane. So this is an actual battle for position between him and Huber.
Yeah.
I do love the Bentley. I mean, oh, is that Ismail Rosal?
Yes, it is. I think that's his second.
Yeah, I believe so.
Thing.
At least second we've seen.
Yeah.
Could be more. Could be more. It's just so easy to do. I've always said this, from the few times I've raced the Nordschleife. I always think that actually one of the hardest parts, and hear me out here, is actually the Grand Prix loop, because everyone underestimates it. Everyone's like, I'll practice the Nordschleife. The Grand Prix loop, it's easy, isn't it? It's just the Grand Prix loop. But when you think about it, like, normally, if we were to do, if everyone was to go and race around the Grand Prix loop, you'd see everyone separated by a second, maybe, maybe a second and a half. Don't underestimate how much time can be gained on the Grand Prix loop.
Oh, definitely.
Always does.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm even. I have to agree fully on that. I mean, I was driving the Cupra competition mainly, but the same goes for this combination. Oh, you know what? The Nürburgring, the Grand Prix layout is okay. Just ignore it and just skip it, But yeah, I mean, if you're already down 1.5 seconds in that part alone, then you should not be ignoring it at all.
No, it's free time to pick up if you know how to do it. So you've got to maximise everywhere around the Nordschleife. By the way, speaking of the Cupra Sim Racing Series and this track, races here tomorrow night, if I remember correctly. Although my schedule, I'm really all over the place with this. I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow night. Certainly. Is it next week?
I think it's next week.
I think it is next week. We're okay.
It is next week.
We are okay.
You got me scared there for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I was getting myself scared. I was like, just had to go and check my calendar there a second. It's a 3-week break between last round and this, but obviously that series is underway, and like many of the other things, it's one of those things that you have to qualify to get on, and it's an intense qualification process to be a part of. It really does take the toll. You need perfect laps. By the way, I was about to say about this battle, second place, Kirill Sokovikov with Jerozomosis Cassel, who's really, really close now to the BMW ahead in his Callaway. So I get the feeling there might well be a move here between these two.
Yeah, that won't take too long.
I do also get the feeling that they're all coming into the pit lane this time by, unless they are desperately saving fuel. If they can get one more lap of fuel, if they can get one more lap on the track, they will be able to make a one-stop race work. Let's see with Cassel, who's going to try and make a move on the BMW at the moment of Kirill Sokovikov. You've also got the BMW of Greta directly behind. So not close enough to get involved in this, but should anything happen, we'll be there to pick up the pieces. Sokovikov does not fight this one at all at the moment, as Kevin Bellens is into the pit lane. I do get the feeling that Merck will probably have to make a splash prior to the end. Obviously, we'll keep our eye as to where he comes out in comparison to Van der Zijden. Let's see if anyone from this group is going to stay out onto the pit lane, stay out on the racetrack rather. No, they are not. They are all coming into the pit lane. I get the feeling, the expectation is that everyone will probably require a splash prior to the end of the race. It takes a lot of time out of you, doesn't it? If you're trying to save that much fuel for you think of it, for a lap around, Silverstone or whatever, to save a lap of fuel it's not easy, but it's fine, whatever, it's manageable. A lap around here, whew, no, thank you.
No. Also, while everybody is going into the pit, I just noticed that we have a new peak record of 332 drivers on ranked at the same time just now.
Fantastic stuff. I did think we were quite close to that a little bit earlier, so it is fantastic to see. And As I say, more people joining every time. If you want to get yourself involved, go and download RaceRoom Racing Experience and get yourselves on the grid. These two are back close together again. This is Chris van der Zijden and Soto. Javier Soto is very much trying to take second position off. There is the previous race leader, Kevin Bellens, and you can tell by the gap, no longer the race leader. So that gap between Javier Soto, who, by the way, has was just going to take the race lead, hasn't been able to do so. Oh, was that Kevin Bellens with a drive-through penalty that I just saw pop up?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, no. So has lost time. Kirill Sokovikov as well with a penalty.
Exactly, he's not even the only one.
It's so easy to do, but how costly that? I said he had to nail that pit lane sequence, and he knew. Oh, that is very, very costly from van der Zijden. This is it, the battle for the race lead after an hour's racing around the Nordschleife, approaching the halfway point in the race, and these two Audis are going at it hammer and tongs. No drive-through penalties to their name. Javier Soto is desperate to take this one from Chris van der Zijden.
Yeah, you will definitely keep the pressure on. And that pace is quite similar as well.
I get the feeling that Javier Soto's opening, like his early stint rather, pace is actually very, very aggressive indeed, because he really did catch Kevin Bellens in the early stages of the opening portion of this race. So he has already closed that gap down, so we know that he's quite quick. I think maybe he burnt through his tyres just a touch too quick throughout the stint. These Audis should be quite good on their tyres, but I think maybe he just pushed it a little bit too far. By the way, I think there might have been an issue between Gerasimos Casal and Kirill Sokovikov, because they were separated on the right side of my screen where I can see the timings. They were separated by very, very small amount, and now they're separated by 5 seconds as Javier Soto's made a mistake. Oh, that is a shame. That is an enormous shame. Just pushing too hard and just overdid it now. It was a fantastic display, but just pushing it a little bit too much. And said earlier in the broadcast, didn't we, that the curbs around here are big, especially in a car like the Audi. Just overdid it and lost the rear end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can touch a few of them, but if you hit them with such a lot of speed, it's gonna hurt. It really gotta hurt.
By the way, just behind this fifth place, the one that we're currently looking at now, we've got the battle between the two Mercs of Ilya Drovosekov, who's trying to get by Radek Pavlicek, and a potential move into Arenberg, trying to go around the outside through Schwedenkreuz. That's the move that I was talking about a little bit earlier in the broadcast. You go around the outside there, you get the inside through Arenberg. Looks easy, feels fantastic though. That was lovely.
I mean, you can definitely see that Ilya had a lot of practice here. He just feels confident enough to actually make that move, but it's going to be difficult to keep it going.
Oh, I don't know if that was just my eyes this evening. I'm pretty sure that Drovosekov got a fair amount of sideways action coming into Arenberg there. Clearly lighting up the rear end of his AMG, and why not? I think Javier Soto's very, very close to Kevin Bellens, but actually the closest battle will be between Shimmy and Geisler at the moment for 13th position. There is Dennis Shimmy, who's been close to a couple of issues through the race, but has managed to elude them at present. Is directly ahead of him I think that's the Haribo Mercedes, isn't it? That is liked by some, not so much by others, but Geisler just keeping at bay the Callaway behind.
Yeah, it really does stand out, doesn't it? In a positive way, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'd drive it. I think it looks fine. I'm not sure how much people like driving around with a Haribo bear on it, but, each to their own.
Yeah,
I'd take it. I've always said, though, that I think you should always drive around in the brightest car possible, because then you don't have an excuse to miss me in your mirrors.
Exactly. It stands out. Here I am.
I don't know if that has much logic, but you think of it this way. If you're in a completely grey car, well, the track's grey. Barriers are grey. You don't really stand out very much. Meanwhile, if you have, like, bright pink, you cannot miss it.
Well, at the same time, if the car is indeed greyish or, you know, tarmac grey, if somebody suddenly brakes, you're scared because you didn't see it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Although you would be able to dive down the inside and get someone out of the way because you just be like, well, they don't see me coming. I'm basically a stealth fire, which does seem how Dennis Shimmy is at the moment. He is going stealthily on the attack of this Mercedes behind, but hasn't been able to make the move stick. And I'm pretty sure that Geisler is very much aware of his position at the moment, and so definitely knows that he is under attack.
Yeah. Give me flashing the lights. Let me by. I'm here.
Well, yeah, we know that flashing of the lights always, 100% of the time, always works to get you through. Actually adds 60 brake horsepower, does flashing the lights, the harder you press the button. Onto the grass, trying to find a way through. Not quite yet. Potentially has the slipstream in the run into Mutkirver and may well get his way through. I think he might actually be a little bit too close to make anything stick. You really kind of need to back off a little bit so that you can carry that speed up and you have that sort of advantage that can't be stopped. But him putting two wheels on the grass wouldn't have helped, and him putting two wheels on that curb won't help either. So not yet, although I do get the feeling potentially the Duttinger this position's going to be switched because Dennis Shimmy's looking much faster, as he did from memory in the early stages of the first stint.
Yeah, exactly.
Rokas to be, by the way, the first driver to come into pit lane, if memory serves, I'm pretty sure he was, is now on the attack between two Callaways on Marvin Mackenberg, who was one of the last drivers to come in the pit lane for the virtual drivers by TX3 camp. So these two battling out. Rokas to be was one of the drivers that was in the the Imola Grand Prix that we did, which was a great event. Hopefully we can get more of these sort of broadcasts done, because they are always good to be a part of, and it's fantastic to bring that community together. And like I said, talking about communities and stuff in RaceRoom, obviously you've got leagues and stuff, you've got all of these smaller communities. These are the kind of events where you've got an e-racing series, like, you know, proper esports competition like the Cooper Sim Racing Series, WTCR, Radiacy GT Masters, etc. All these ones that might be a bit daunting to a smaller community. You get an event like this, it's quite open, it's quite almost easy to be a part of and just sort of get involved. And this is where we see that mash of communities that sort of brings everyone together, as there is Javier Soto finally passed on Kevin Bellens, 1.7 seconds, so he has closed down to Chris van der Zijde.
Yeah, but exactly. I mean, the barrier is quite low, and of course this is the highest server currently available. You need a lot of rating and a lot of reputation for it to actually enter the server. But I mean, if you have one or two people from your community that reaches that minimum rating and reputation, then it is really an event worth to watch and see. Well, if they to cheer on their member of the community. And at the same time, everybody feels connected to the RaceRoom community in general as well. But it really is a very nice and an easygoing community.
Certainly is. That was not a nice and easygoing move from Kevin Bellens. That was a proper dive down at turn one, and certainly cost Javier Soto some time, and they're going to just drop back a little bit from the Dutchman that is leading the race. Does seem, though, and this is kind of the bit that I was a little bit worried about with Javier Soto, was that hit that he had on the opening part of the Greenhow. Was worried that it would have damaged his car and really slowed down, because it was kind of a fair whack with the barrier. Seems as though we can put that one to bed, because it does look like his car is plenty fast enough at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be bothered by the damage he has.
Why I do touring car racing, because you can properly brake that and it's still perfectly fine.
Yeah, they're not as fragile as the WTCR, for example.
No, absolutely not. I wonder if, so from memory, it just popped up very, very quickly. Do believe that Kevin Bellens has a drive-through penalty, which I'm going to assume you have 3 laps to take it, correct?
Yeah.
which three laps around here is enormous. So fair enough. But yeah, so we're pretty sure he has a drive-through penalty that he has to serve for speeding in the pit lane on the previous stop. So doesn't have to take it this lap, but will have to take it next lap. Makes sense to kind of delay it as much as possible because you're pulling slipstream from people that you know are of your speed. But most importantly, you're trying to basically pull yourself as far ahead so that when you come out of the pit lane from that drive-through penalty, that you're as a low likelihood as possible in the thick of things, because you might jump a car by just staying out a little bit further. I actually don't think he will. I think he's going to come out in sort of around about 9th place, just behind Cassel. But you know, you're using the slipstream to pull you up, so you're going to be as close as possible to Cassel. So I get this tactic of staying out.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I just hope that he won't forget about it, because I mean, if you're so focused on driving and following, chasing, attacking, you could actually just forget about it.
Oh, battle for 7th place, I believe. Christian Grote's going on the attack and is going to get by Pavlicek. That's just into Schwedenkreuz. So the BMW driver has made that position stick. We'll see if Pavlicek can go on the attack himself and fancies switching these positions around. And to be honest, Pavlicek's had some decent pace throughout the day, so I wouldn't necessarily rule it out in this scenario. But Grote's was one of the slightly earlier pit stops, if memory serves. So I think he might just be very much in the rhythm at the moment and is fancying going on the attack. This is such a rhythm-based circuit where you need confidence and you need skill. We'll focus back, by the way, to... He is in 15th place now, by the way. Luciano Wittfurt, he's got up into the top 15, but he's now very much close to potentially making a move on Geisler and Shimmy, who've been battling out for the last couple of laps.
Yeah, great work and progress by Luciano there. I mean, already on position 15, and we still have more than 1 hour to go.
That time, that hour, sounds like a long time. It ticks away so quickly, because you think the lap's 8 minutes, that time disappears. So you think, oh, I'll take my time, I'll wait a little bit, I'll have a move when I'm ready, you know, it's fine. Yeah, it disappears rapidly. So in this sense, not ideal, and that's why Luciano Wittfurt's been so on the attack since that earlier spin at the Stefan Beloff S on the opening lap, second lap of the race. Dropped down to 33rd position and has been on a march ever since. The Dutchman picking up positions that sometime I think has peaked at only 3 positions a lap. At one point, which was very impressive, by the way, but I get the feeling that at some point over this lap he may well pick up 2, and another one is not too far down the road. The next one after this will be Sokovikov. Oh, is it a little bit wide there from Dennis Shimmy just ahead, so this is not great. I think it might actually be a lapped car, the next one down the road. Not sure.
See if I can find them.
Oh no, it would be Sokovikov. It would be Sokovikov. There's just 2 seconds between them. I am fully awake. Don't worry myself. It is just Sokovikov, and then it's 7 seconds to the next car. All right, I'm with it.
But he's really, really close to Misha right now, and just putting on that pressure.
Yeah, look how close he was to the rear end. Down into Bergwerk. Whoa, that was committed. That was committed from Luciano Wittfurt. No way through. We'll try and use the slipstream to get through into Mutkirva, but with the slipstream being applied from the car ahead of that Callaway of Shimmy, I don't think he's going to be close enough to pull alongside the AMG at present. So may well have to wait that little bit further and try and fight through. Although I've said that, his exit from Bergwerk seemed to actually have been pretty good, because he is closing in that Audi. They're all closing in on this Callaway. The corner's just coming up where Sokovikov is going through now. I'm pretty sure that Geisler is feeling the pressure and feels that he needs to go on the attack himself, but this might well be the perfect time for Luciano Wittfurt to try and make this move. But with pushing this hard, you're taking so many risks, aren't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you really need to stay focused and really trust the drivers in front of you to be as focused as you are, because I mean, one small mistake and you won't just take out yourself, but the others as well. Now, of course, in Luciano's Whitford, he has to trust Misha and Dennis to be in full control of their car. Because if either one of them loses control and Luciano remains that close, he will not be able to save his car.
Remember how I said about Radek Pavlicek a little bit of a while ago, saying that he might be able to return favour and get after Greta again. Hasn't been able to do so, has actually dropped a position to Sebastian Rey, who's moved up into 7th. Our focus will remain on this battle with Luciano Wittfurt. Driver ahead, I think that might be Sokovikov, that's just picked up a little bit of dirt running around this section of the lap. Would be great actually to run on board with Wittfurt in this scenario, because with him being on the attack, you really see that how much he's pushing. I think potentially making a few too many mistakes. He's not overdoing it so much that the mistake's big enough that it's costing him so much time, but is just pushing it a little bit too far in a few scenarios, and I'm almost a little concerned, especially considering we've already seen this car backwards today.
Yeah, I mean, he really wants to perform, and he really wants to get back at the front where he actually belongs as well. He just
oh, there we go. And guess where it was? Yep, it was there. Didn't lose too much though. No positions, just a lot of time. By the way, Kevin Bellens is back up to 2nd position, but he's battling with Javier Soto. Oh, right, Bellens is into the pit lane for his drive-through penalty. So 2nd position will return to Javier Soto. 2 and a bit seconds off of the back of Van der Zijden. It's a slow trudge through pit lane, isn't it, for Bellens? He's going to come out just behind Grotta, maybe. I think he might be ahead of Sebastian Rey. Oh, it's going to be close. Not quite. Sebastian Rey's going to come out ahead.
There you can see how much time you really lose because of that drive-through. From P2 to P7.
Remember that he's not the only one with a drive-through. I believe Sokovikov has a drive-through. Pavlicek, by the way, is into the pit lane. Not for a drive-through, as far as I can see. He is into the pit lane for a legitimate stop. So clearly jumping in. Jonas Decker is also into the pit lane. That is for a drive-through penalty. So we did have a few in that pit stop sequence. We've got Greisler here, and that's, of course, Shimmy. That they're going side by side into T1. They were close with Luciano Wittfurt a couple of laps ago, but after him dropping back through the Stefan Beloff S, there's no way through, as these two will have a decent display between the two of them. A decent move around the outside by Geisler, and gets the move done on Shimmy.
Yeah, definitely well done. They keep on fighting each other and switch positions, but they also keep climbing up those positions. Really great driving there.
Look, I think they've accepted, they're not going to catch the next driver down the road. Maybe they will, actually, because I think Sokovikov actually has a drive-through penalty, but don't remember off the top of my head. I think he's got another lap to serve it, even if he does. Maybe you can't catch the car ahead. That's fine. Again, sure, we're all here, we want to win. But if we don't, you might as well make the most of it by just having a good battle and just enjoying yourself, and that's what this is all about. This is looking like it may well be a good battle, and like I say, what a better way to do it than on a broadcast as well, for good measure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there is not really any pressure from being broadcasted, but it definitely gives some, you don't really have to be an esporter to get on television.
No, absolutely not. I think there's one person we haven't looked at for a little while. Had another spin earlier was Ismail Rosal, who's just a little bit further down the order, but I think is very, very close to battling, as we do see Ismail Rosal, who's on the back of Vershegi Nodge at the moment, running down into turn 1. Good to see the Porsche on screen. I don't see too many of them. I think we've only got, like I said, I think we've only got 2 on the grid. One of which I believe is out of the race. So I think this might be the lone Porsche left on the grid. Which, like I say, love to see a Porsche. I mean, some people don't think Porsches are that great. I actually do. I do love myself a good Porsche. Why not?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it drives a little bit different, of course, and it takes a little bit of more time to get used to it. But once you do get the hang of it, it is really amazing, and it drives well. For GT4, I usually drive a Porsche.
Like I say, they've got their own way of driving it. It's coming through the Schumacher S, very much over the curb at the first part of it. Like I said, they drive very differently, naturally, with it being a rear engine, although these days it's actually technically classified as a mid-engine, although, you know, yeah, if you want to outright call it a mid-engine car, then you know, fair enough. You do you. I'll still probably classify it as a rear-engine car, but you know, either way, they do drive in an odd way. Obviously, you know, more of the weight is over the rear end, and so that's balanced out in certain other ways. It does cause some levels of, I was going to say, of instability, but they're balanced out in a bizarre way. Like I say, it works for some people's driving styles and not for others. And this is what we were saying about earlier in the race, is that if you need to sim race or whatever, don't just stick to one car. Try lots of different cars. If you're just intent on driving in GT3s, then that is a perfect class for this, because you drive the Audi for a little bit, you think, oh, that's interesting, I'll drive the Merc now. Definitely try and drive the Porsche as well, because it drives that enough different that you absolutely learn how to deal with certain scenarios that may not come up in other cars. And trust me, it all works out in the end, because you actually will learn stuff in a Porsche that will help you driving rallycross, or you'll drive rallycross and it'll something that will help you in a touring car. And trust me, it all comes full circle. You've got to learn the whole bit of sim racing. I'm not that good though, so I don't try and learn any of that stuff. I just hope and pray that it all works out in the end, as we'll see if the Shaggy Nodge will be passed. I don't think so at the moment, because Ismail Rosel's just not close enough at the moment.
It seems to be losing a little bit of time there. Meanwhile, Denishimi and Misha Geisler, they are really close together.
Yeah, continuing to do so. Again, we were saying about this battle being a fantastic one that I get the feeling we're going to see more of across the rest of this broadcast. This is on the rise of the hill, both going on to the grass, and Shimmy trying to find a way through, this time with a lot less pressure on his rear end. Is there going to be a move? I doubt it, into Mutkirva. Luciano Vitford is 5 seconds behind of this, so no closing down at the moment. Rokas Tabi and Jonas Dekker are very, very close. Jonas Dekker has been into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty and has come out in 16th position. There he is in that Mercedes on the attack of a Callaway. So he's trying to do the most amount of damage he can. Rokas Tabi was in the pit lane earlier in the race, so he's already come in. He was one of the first, or the first, to head the way of pit lane, so you'd suspect will be the first to return to it, which I don't actually think will be that far down the road, potentially in the next sort of next couple of laps. Rokas Tabi might be in the pit lane.
Yeah, at some point he really needs to get some fuel in, and I don't know about you driving the GT3 and your tyre wear, but I would probably be on, well, a low percentage.
Obviously, with it being such a long track, you know, you've got to time this pretty well, because if you go a lap too long, whilst a lap too long in, you know, like I say, around Silverstone, you've got 2 minutes then to deal with some fairly worn tyres. Fair enough. Around here, though, you've got to deal with that for 8 minutes, and you lose a lot of time. So making sure your tyres are in control is actually really, really crucial. We didn't notice too much. This was, again, a very long time ago. Didn't notice too much tyre issues around here. So, you know, fair enough. All the corners, though, you know, they're fairly medium speed. So it would be, theoretically, quite a high tyre wear circuit. But, you know, everyone attacks it in their own different way. Normally, you're driving kind of very much within yourself. So you're not pushing it to its very limit.
Yeah, it all comes down to the driver and how much pushing they are really doing. I mean, if you look at the first 11, well, 10 really, they are all a few seconds apart, so they can just pick a pace and keep with it. They do not have to worry much about all the traffic or defending or keeping up a higher pace than they're comfortable with. But a few of them really have to fight for that position.
Let's see now if Shimmy can make a move on Geisler. You just saw coming over the crest as well out of Galgenkopf, the Audi of Luciano Wittfurt is closing in. Did come down a second and a bit on these two, so he is chomping at the bit. He is trying to fire this gap down, but this should be a fairly easy move from Shimmy. Going to leave it to the inside is the Mercedes of Geisler, but I'm not sure it's going to stick in this scenario as they run down towards Tiergarten. That was very, very close. An exceptionally high-speed part of the circuit, and all managed to come out alive in this scenario. And again, Luciano Wittfurt will be closing in on this, but hesitant potentially after a couple of issues whilst we complete a lap. Just want to give a shout out, by the way, to Ilya Drovosekov, who is very, very close to third position. Fabian Guide, who's potentially lost a bit of pace in this BMW, starts out the stints quite strong, but did drop off in the first stint, continuing to do so in this one. And Drovosekov, who qualified quite well, didn't have the greatest start to the race, but the Swiss driver is looking pretty pacey as this stint goes on in that AMG, clearly looking after its tyres very nicely, as is his driving style.
Yeah, definitely. He got a lot of practice in as well, despite not being the fastest on Nordschleife itself. He's a confident driver and, well, drives clean and fast.
All of these drivers drive fast in comparison to me, so you know I'm impressed in that sense. Who's that off the road? I think that's Schwallow, and out of the race. Out of the race. That is a shame. Another retirement to stick on the list, I believe as well. That was DTR Kelman, who was in the pit lane having some service, potentially for the final time this race. 50 minutes to go. I think it's about time again. We've been speaking of drivers of high speed, of high talent, and you know exactly what I'm building up for. Get your keyboards ready. No copy and paste here. You've got to type it out yourself. Code about to hit your screen. Get ready to type it in. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, and just to clarify, it is not a regular VRP code. It is a very special code.
I definitely want to be winning that one. So get yourself typed in. It's a race all over the place. So you can fire your way on to load it up. Get the code in, not through Steam, it's all done through RaceRoom's own portal. So you open up the portal, you can click the redeem code and then get it set as the battle for third position continues to rage on whilst everyone's quickly typing in their keyboards. It is a code which has only one redemption, so you've got to be quick with it. Fabian Guide leading from Ilya Drovosekov in this battle for third place at the moment. Of course, we've still got that battle between Shimmy and Geisler. I actually think, by the way, that rather than coming in for service, I do believe that DTR Kelman is out of the race, which is a shame for someone who was so on the attack. Whilst we're talking of in a same sense, a bit of a tangent, let's talk about Porsche, because I believe that Ismail Rosal is once again on the attack of Nosh.
Does look like it. Still has a little bit of damage there, but they're both still driving.
Actually thought it was closer than it was. It looked so good at my time. It's like, oh, it's coming down massive. No, it's not yet. Not yet. We are good. This is the thing, is that we've got battles up and down the order again. We've still got our battle for third place, which they are very close right now. We're just keeping my eye on it. You can see them running up through Wiesenmüller, and then this enormous rise up through Bergwerk, and then continuing afterwards. I am feeling that this is a matter of when, not if. It is going to happen at some point. Just when it is the real question. I get the feeling it's going to be quite soon.
Yeah, they're definitely building up to it.
I was going to say, get the feeling for quite soon. Here we are immediately. Completed the pass. A little bit of a mistake there from Fabian Guy, but Ilya Drovosekov then up to third place. They have lost a lot of time to Javier Soto, who's trying to close in on Van der Zijden. That was a pretty easy move, but again, more mistakes, though, in the hands of the Swiss driver of Drovosekov, and getting back involved in the scene, not trying to drop off the podium for too long. The BMW driver of Fabian Guy. No way through for now. Mercedes Power going to pull him onto the podium. A lot of German manufacturers battling it out at the front end of the field, so I'm sure that's keeping them very happy, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I said it before, I would not be surprised if the top 10 consists of multiple manufacturers, and the only one really missing is either the Bentley or the Porsche. But, I mean, not everybody likes to drive them, so you can't really force it onto them. But at least they are in the survey, and we even had in McLaren, which doesn't happen often either.
It was good to see the McLaren, albeit for a fairly brief time, courtesy of Ivanov. But alas, it was nice to see the bright orange colours of Woking's finest, and rising up once again into Mutkova. And whilst this battle has switched, whilst Chimmy has got to the front of it, Geisler is trying to apply the pressure himself. And look who is back on the scene. Luciano Wittfurt once again has, a bit of a snap between the two ahead of him. Once again, waiting to pounce and drive his way through. Hopefully this time there won't be a mistake for the Dutchman. Literally said it, rises up out of the carousel. Oh no.
Is it the streamer curse?
I think it is. I've got to stop talking about Luciano Wittfurt. Oh, poor man. Oh dear. Kind of felt that was going to happen the moment that because when you're up, obviously in the carousel, whilst you're up there, you bottom out quite a lot, and so yeah, not great.
Yeah,
My
I was
manager
about to say.
Oh, go on.
Sorry, I was about to say you really need to trust the guys in front of you, and the moment I was was thinking about saying that, they actually got into a slight incident, and you saw Luciano backing off immediately as well. But that somehow, for some reason, he actually spun out himself almost instead of the guys in front of him.
Yeah.
Being too careful is not always the safest way either, I guess.
Well, if you're sliding through a corner, inexperience might tell you to lift off the throttle, right? You might go, yeah. I'm going slightly sideways, I'm going to lift off the throttle because that'll stop me from sliding too much. That is the wrong answer. You can't, don't get me wrong, don't just keep it flat, but throttle control whilst you're going sideways is really, really, really important, because it's what kind of keeps the car going in the correct direction. And so that's exactly what you're saying there. If you are trying to be too cautious, if you lift off fully, it actually completely unbalances the car. And so there is a very, very fine line with this whole scenario, and you've got to be very, very careful. Luciano Wittfurt clearly struggling a lot. Fabian Guy may be struggling with internet connection. Did you see him drop down the order and then return to fourth place? Oh, that's fairly ominous. Might just have been because he entered pit lane. Okay, we don't have to panic anymore. It's fine.
Okay. Phew.
That was me. That was me panicking, by the way. So it's fine. Anyway, as I was going to say, by the way, my manager at work, I work normally in a restaurant, my manager was telling me that there was, again, I don't know if this is true, because I genuinely don't know why the carousel is banked the way it is, but allegedly it was down to people cutting a corner and then that it sort of eroding away. And rather than resurfacing the entire section, they just patched it. Now that's just amusing that if that is true, if one of the most iconic corners, potentially the most iconic corner in the entire world, is a patch job. It's just like, stick some concrete there, it'll be fine. And run away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's one way to solve it.
Don't know that one for sure. I'm sure everyone will correct us in chat if it's wrong, so that's fine. But alas, I should know these things, but I don't, because I'm a bit of an idiot, unfortunately. I would say I'm a better driver than I am in terms of knowledge, but that is not true.
Well, I mean, a few small mistakes or close enoughs, meh, should be doable, right?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Just a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. By the way, so we've seen some people coming to the pit lane. Once again, this battle between Geisler and Shimmy, very, very close. I believe it was Gerd Schulze who is potentially into the pit lane, certainly is. So we are in that final pit lane sequence, 40 minutes left to go in this race. We've completed nearly 2 hours of racing. We're only about 15 minutes away from doing so. It's been a thrilling fight throughout, and I get the feeling that we are once again closing in as Javier Soto is trying to close down that gap to Chris van der Zijden for the race lead. And with that pit lane sequence once again being earlier than everyone else for Fabian Guide, he's dropped down now to 14th position. And it's interesting that on both occasions, obviously, you know, that if you're pit too early on the first one, it's going to draw you in early on the second one. But just interesting how early he tried to pit and it didn't work. I'd assume that came mostly as fruition to coming out in traffic. The longer you go through the race, the more everyone's spread out, the less likely you're going to get caught in traffic. So maybe in this sense, second time lucky might at least pull him clear of Ilya Drovosekov, who is closely battling for third place and that final spot on the podium.
Yeah, and he's got nobody in front of him right now, so he's just hot lapping right now. And I don't think that he really minds that, because then he can try and find his own pace. Yeah. He doesn't have to look out for other cars. He doesn't have to worry about some slower car in front of him. He can just go on and on and on, and he's good at it as well. And not just hot lapping as in qualifying leaderboard and reset when it's over. No, actual hot lapping during the race.
How many times? I don't know if you. I brought this up before. I think we brought this up when we did the Imola Grand Prix. Of you're driving behind someone, you're applying all the pressure. It's fantastic. You're driving as great as you ever have, and you're thinking, "God, I'm driving great. This guy's holding me up. I need to get by." You get by. I now don't have someone ahead of me. I've got perfectly clear road. I can spot all the brake markers that I want from as far away as possible, and you make a mistake because I don't know what it is, but you start using the car ahead as reference. Even just subconsciously, and the moment they're not there, you instantly miss your braking zone and you're in the barrier. It's so easy to do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's quick changing, and you know, you really have to switch the mindset instantly. Going from the back of a car and then suddenly leading. Of course, if the car behind you is still very close, then it does feel a bit easier to switch. But if you're going by him and he's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds behind you, then it's different all of a sudden. You really need to be focused all the time.
Yeah, especially around here. Absolutely. You there's no, like, you're not afforded any time to rest. By the way, just ahead of this, we've got a battle between a couple of BMWs. It's Sokovikov and Bruno Ornelas. Battling it out for 7th position on the road at the moment. They're both very, very close, obviously in equal machinery. And potentially Kirill Sokovikov is going to go on the attack to try and find up another one. Has been into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty, courtesy of speeding in the pit lane. Still awaiting his second and final pit stop, where he'll be hoping not to speed in pit lane. There's a little bit of a snap there from Ornelas, and this potentially might draw the Lada Sport Rosenef driver alongside. There's the switch of position, and up into 7th place goes Kirill Sokovikov. Nice move. Just a little bit of a snap. Too much power coming out of Bergwerk, and just allowed Kirill Sokovikov to gain the place. He's gained a couple through that section as well, has Sokovikov. Again, another driver that's been on the attack. He is a driver that has been in the esports side of things, has Sokovikov. So he's got a fair amount of experience in that side, and obviously has a fair amount of experience on the ranked side. I'm not going to say that he's the top ranked player again, because I don't actually know that one for sure. I do know he has done A lot of ranked racers, though, an awful lot. Really seems to enjoy driving on RaceRoom, which why wouldn't you? It's a bit of fun. I quite like that. We have this discussion of whose sim is best, which I absolutely despise that conversation, by the way. As Geisler and Shimmy once again are very close, as Shimmy ahead, no way through for Geisler though, so that's just out of the carousel up towards Hoa Akt. But yeah, the whole that whole conversation, let's not get into it too much. I like that RaceRoom's almost got that sort of slightly more casual side that's really approachable.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the barrier is as low as you want it and as high as you want it. If you just want to drive a few laps and just test out a few cars if you don't have any content, it is fairly easy to do so. And the moment you get the taste for it and decide, well, you know what, let's try out this ranked multiplayer, the barrier is very low. And even for esports, it doesn't really matter how high you want the barrier to be set, it is all available, and that's the beauty of RaceRoom for me, at least.
Absolutely. Like, so for me, I like seeing new people joining sim racing and enjoying it for the first time, mostly because when you've been in sim racing for a long time, you turn into, well, me. Where you just sort of, you get grouchy and annoyed by everything. It's like, oh god, there's no impressing him. Oh, you've only just released Brands GP. That's not okay. Yeah, the old classic. That's a good one that we've seen not too long ago. Is there's a position switch from Cassell, who's got up into 5th place. Like that side of the community, thankfully, it's not too vocal. Obviously, it's its own fair amount. But those new people that get that buzz from sim racing for the very first time is always really very exciting. You never really forget your first race. Another code on screen. Get typing it in, load up the RaceRoom portal and type in the code as Sebastian Ree comes into the pit lane for his final time. You've got to do it yourself, you've got to type it in, you've got to be fast. RaceRoom portal, click the redeem code, type that in and get yourself some content for RaceRoom Racing Experience, which you can download through Steam. Don't have to pay for it, you just download it free from there and then get yourself on the grid. Wow, wouldn't you know it, these two battling it out once again, Geisler and Shimmy, and Luciano Wittfurt, I think he's made another mistake because he's dropped off the back of these two as they're still going side by side up towards Tiergarten. Once again, oh, that's very close. Keep it together. Oh, it's so close. Oh, that was so tight. How did Shimmy keep that one together? That was really terrifying, and bailing out from that, and I am not surprised. Geisler fancies no more of that.
Wow, that could have been gone so wrong in such a short time. That is actually incredible that they managed to stay, well, alive, really. Wow.
I was not ready for that. I'll say that for sure. No siree. Whew. I mean, I get it. You're fighting hard. When you come into that final part, when it's really close, I 100% get it. Been there, but oh my, was that close. That is, yeah, very tight stuff indeed. Definitely heart-in-mouth moment. Either way, with Shimmy continuing on the race circuit, obviously with Geisler returning to the pit lane. He also went in with Luciano Wittfurt, who, by the way, I believe they've just come out of pit lane. I believe Luciano Wittfurt, there we go, is ahead of Misha Geisler. So they have switched positions, which is interesting. I'm going to assume, because I'm pretty sure Misha Geisler is still in the pit lane, could that be just fuel, no tyres for Luciano Wittfurt?
Ooh. Yeah, that would explain a few things.
See, now this obviously will open it up for drivers further up the order that might well be battling out. Anyone who brought it in closer to the halfway point of the race, as there we are seeing the move from Sebastian Ree, who's got to the inside of Shimmy. I was about to say that it might be fancying a move fresh out of the pit lane is Sebastian Ree. For any of those drivers, though, that are trying to battle for the race lead, maybe trying to overcome a drive-through penalty that he had or something in that vein, Kevin Bellens, for example, may well try something radical on strategy, may not take tyres, may do something like that, just to try and drag their way back in to the race-leading battle in some way. Yes, you'll be on the back foot, but track position around here can be very, very important indeed. There is Kevin Bellens on screen at the moment. You've got Cassel just ahead of him, running through Ardnau Forst. 30 minutes left to go in the race, so realistically, if you do the maths, 4 laps and a pit stop to boot as well. So I'm sure we're going to see some fairly close stuff. Shimmy, after being passed by Rees, keeping fairly close, but nothing doing at the moment. I believe we've got a battle for 15th place on the road as well. Between Simon Huber and Florian Hochterlinger. Is that all right? Terrible. It's fine. Just slam me in the chat. It's absolutely fine. Close battle either way. Nice to see the Bentley back on screen. Do really enjoy seeing, like I say, it's the different cars. We've not seen too much of the Bentley. We saw a little bit of the Porsche early on. Not seen too much of the Bentley this afternoon, evening, and it's good to see. I think some people said that they didn't quite like the 2019-2020 version of the Bentley with a slightly different rear end, and some people like it, some people don't. I actually quite like it. I think it looks all right.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it sounds great as well. I mean.
Yeah, have a listen. Oh, I think he was trying to go for a move as well to the inside of Arenberg, but no way doing on the rear end of Huber. But yeah, fantastic car. I think in the vein of we were discussing about the Porsche earlier, of cars that drive a little bit odd. The Bentley is also in that category, just very much on the other extreme, isn't it? So in that sense, it's another car that I would recommend driving to learn its advantages and disadvantages, and then sort of come to your own sort of agreement. It's the beautiful thing of GT3 racing, is they're all different in their own regard.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if you check out the cars in the pack, each and every car sounds different, feels different, and you really need to take the time and actually go for the car that you are most comfortable in. The cars are relatively close in the BOP. The balance of performance is really close together, and it all comes down to your own preferences, and not just one car is overpowered or one car is a winner. No, it all comes down to the driver, and it just takes a little bit of time to get the cars under control and get the most out of it.
Just had a switch, by the way, for 9th place. Fabian Gates, fresh out of the pit lane, has just got by Shimmy in this scenario. So they have a switch as Shimmy dropping backwards a little bit, still awaiting a pit stop. Look pretty intense when we return to them. I'm expecting a pit stop this lap from, to be honest, most people. Some can go another lap, maybe even a little bit further, as Fabian Gates gone way too high through the carousel. Open the door. Dennis Shimmy's had that invitation and has taken it and run away. Now he's got to do all the work again, does Fabian Gates.
He still has a few seconds. Well, I was going to say a few seconds, but he is closing in quite fast.
Is actually important to note is that lap traffic. Was that lap? No, it's Sebastian Ree. What's happened to Sebastian Ree?
Slowdown penalty, continuing to abuse track limits.
There we go. There we go. That one asked and answered. Thanks. By the way, this battle for Fabian Reeb is actually is actually really important as he's trying to go around the outside of Shimmy. Oh, you don't see this too often as they're still going side by side, coming up towards Brunson. He's got to make it stick around there. That is fantastic between the two. And boy, oh boy, did he need to make that one stick after that costly mistake into the carousel, because this driver here, Ilya Drovasekov, who is off the road on the back of Sebastian Ree, between Sebastian Ree and between Gabe. This is the battle for the podium, theoretically on track towards the latter point of the race.
minor mistake there by Ilya, but well, I don't think I've ever seen him spin out of control, really. I mean, he always gets really fast control of the car again after just a slight hit or a tap even. So he keeps on driving, but yeah.
Did get it noted that it was Pavel McConan, who is the top-rated driver on RaceRoom competition, and number 2 is Ilya Drovosekov, apparently. So there we go. That's someone else's information, not mine. So I would trust it an awful lot more. But does show again that Drovosekov has plenty of experience. So even with these minor mistakes, it's nothing too bad. We do have this four-way fight waiting for those drivers to enter the pit lane. Did see that Javier Soto and Chris van der Zijden have both entered the pit lane in this scenario, and are either of them going to take a gamble in this scenario? I do believe that Javier Soto might. Why not in this scenario? Ilya Drovosekov trying to go for the move and does complete it on Sebastian Ries, so has to return to doing the work, does the Audi driver. Is there going to be a pit lane call? Not quite yet from Shimmy, staying out in the middle of this pack. Soto, by the way, has taken a gamble, because he is out in 3rd position and well ahead of van der Zijden, so hasn't taken tyres. I think that's safe to assume. 25 minutes to go, so realistically 3 laps. Maybe 4. It'll be 4 laps, I think, based on where they are. It'll be quite close to the line, so I think that's doable. I think that's a smart call. I think that's brave. It's a smart call, though. I'm all over that.
It definitely makes it interesting, and unlike the predictions, actually.
This is kind of like the thing of being able to adapt on the fly mid-race. Something that some drivers aren't so good at, other drivers are much, much better. And I'm sure they've already, most of these drivers have already had a bit of a game plan, as Drovosekov's going to get to the inside of Shimmy here and going to really commit to it once again, back after a potential podium position before the end of the race. Does fancy stepping up on it. And again, why not? Whilst it's this close, absolutely. It is up for grabs. There is that potential. It is on the horizon. So why not? Got to get by the BMW ahead. That will be a legitimate battle for position. We're still expecting pit stops from Shimmy, from Cassel, who's leading the race, from Bellens, who's currently running around in 2nd position, 13 seconds clear of Javier Soto. There he is on screen. These two we are expecting into the pit lane. Of course, Bellens, who was leading a lot of the earlier point of the race, had pole position in the qualifying session prior to it, but courtesy of a drive-through penalty has had the day rocked, shall we say, as Rokas B, who's currently on screen trying to attack Chris Williams, has a little bit of a slide coming through turn 1. No move just yet. Once again, on the this is the bit that we've said. It's the bit that people underestimate. Also holds some very good overtaking opportunities, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah.
Running into the Dunlop hairpin, brilliant one. If you're brave, into the NGKHK T1. You've got some really, really good overtaking opportunities around this part of the track. Of course, there are countless ones. Of course, Ismail Rosal. 3rd time, 3rd spin, at least as far as we have seen. Another spin, though, for an Audi at that section of the racetrack, at the Stefan Bellof S, I believe that was. It might have been a little bit further around, but it is a shame, because there did seem to be some very, very good pace for Rosal.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's just a little bit unlucky. Maybe it's just the car or the setup, or maybe it is being earlier on in the race, just a slight damage or something else entirely. But it is difficult to drive 2.4 hours in the race and keep the pace so high, keep your concentration. it's not for everybody.
No, it certainly isn't. Here's a driver who's been in the wars a bit today, and I don't mean that in a way as being spun around and crashed off. Has been in the wars in the sense of battling. Has been battling all day, and this seems to continue trying to get by Simon Huber at the moment for 15th spot. Expect this driver to be a little bit further down the road. Has been battling with Shimmy most of the afternoon's racing. McGlade, after a pit stop, is now trying to make the progress. Wasn't able to make anything stick into Arenberg down through Foxhole or Fuchshöhe or whatever it is in German. Sorry to offend everyone. I don't know how to say it in German, so I won't. It's Foxhole. Oh, as there he goes into the wall is Huber, and that opens the door for Geisler to come through as well. Luciano Wittfurt is the next car down the road, who has jumped. I'm assuming that is also no tyres, so the Dutchman flying on strategy to try and make something stick and again recover for lost time. That's a little bit further down the road. Drovosekov battle for potentially the podium depending on how things unfold. So this is a big one for the Mercedes driver of Ilya Drovosekov. Is there a move here? Not quite yet. Potentially into Mutkurva. Fabian Guide, who's the one defending in that BMW. The long run pace of this car just does not seem ideal. It goes well for the first couple of laps, but then seems to drop off. Was battling for 4th place earlier in the race behind the train and trio of the lead when we had the Mercedes driver of Belens leading the way from Soto and Van der Zijden. He was the 4th car on the road, was Fabian Guide, and was able to keep up for a little bit of the early stage, but once that pace dropped off, it really kind of went, and I get the feeling, Chris, that he just doesn't have the legs on this race. Maybe that's just concentration. Maybe it's not tyres. Maybe it is just focus in the race and just not building up speed as the race goes on. But either way, it does look like a fairly slow BMW at the moment.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, like you said, it could be all kinds of things really, but his pace is quite slow. Well, not slow, but it has dropped. It feels like it has dropped.
I mean, it only has to drop for like a second or two, doesn't it, for it to just sort of snowball. And, you know, because think of it this way, if your tyres go off around a normal circuit, right, you lose a little bit of front grip. You lose a 3/10 around a normal circuit. You lose over a second around here, and it snowballs pretty quick. You know, a second here, a couple of seconds there. You miss that apex, you've missed that apex. The time really does fly out of you, so it's just not great. Hopefully we'll be able to at least hang on for a little while and continue to give us a decent battle, which we've currently got on screen anyway, between Sebastian Ree and Dennis Shimmy. Still waiting for Cassel and Billens to enter the pit lane, because I do believe that Javier Soto will be our race leader, as that's a little bit of a mistake from Sebastian Ree. We've seen a few Audis go off in that section of the racetrack. Not sure if Mackenberg has been into the pit lane. I believe not. I'm pretty sure he was the last driver to enter the pit lane, was Marvin Mackenberg, and I'm assuming will be the last one to enter the pit lane in this section of the race as well. I believe Kevin Bellens is into the pit lane, certainly is.
It does look like it.
Still not had that damage repaired though. Didn't fancy it. Didn't think it was costing him too much time, which I think is a smart move. Didn't seem like it was costing him too much time, even from our point of view.
No, I mean, it's just got so many time, and if you only lose maybe 0.1 or 0.2 of a second during the entire lap, maybe 0.3, but I think all the other damages are far more serious to actually consider repairing. Unless, of course, you can't see anything because of the hood that is all over your cockpit. That's...
Oh, that's tight stuff, and it continues to be so as Shimmy's now defending and keeping Sebastian Ree at bay. So the switch, by the way, just up the road, Sokovikov is into the pit lane. Drovosekov wasn't able to make a move on Fabian Guide. But the real switch is that Kevin Bellens has come out of the pit lane in second place. Again, no tyres. Said he was probably going to try and risk something in this scenario because had some time to try and gain back after that drive-through penalty. He's now ahead of Van der Zijden, so that will actually be him onto the podium. He will have jumped this lot and will be now in second place. Once Cassel comes into the pit lane, we'll have a hard task to try and hang on to second place, mind, but is in second place regardless.
Great driving, that's for sure.
I get the feeling that Soto's going to be a fairly popular winner as Huori makes the little bit of contact on the rear end of the Callaway of Shimmy and just almost moves him out of the way. Still, Shimmy's waiting to come into the pit lane. We'll have to do another couple of laps. We're on, I do believe, once again, with the timer that we've got, 16 minutes, bearing in mind it's an 8 and a bit minute lap. We are talking of another 3 laps, because once they get around, it'll be 8 and a bit minutes. So then once they go around again, we'll have a few seconds. So we'll get 3 laps more of this race in, which, if you were going to try and extend the fuel mileage, that'll be a little bit of a sinking heart feeling, because there's just no way that you're going to make that stick. Certainly not. Yeah. Just that little bit too far. I don't think anyone's going to try and make a one-stop work in this scenario. And anyone who does, power to you. Most certainly so. Guide still with Drovosekov directly behind. This is the closest battle at the moment, but it is Chris van der Zijden with Bellens that is very, very close indeed. This is just over the rise at Vlugplatz, and you do get the feeling that the Dutchman in the Audi is going to try and make a move on the Belgian in the Mercedes, potentially down towards Schwedenkreuz or Arenberg, and might just require a bit of a brave move around the outside. I get the feeling that is exactly what we're about to see. How hard of a fight is Bellens going to put up? Of course, it is going to be as hard as you could possibly dare. This is the battle for what will become second position once Cassel comes into the pit lane. Unless Cassel doesn't take tyres, actually. I say that, because if Cassel doesn't take tyres, we'll actually be in second place. That'll be interesting. See what he does. Ooh, that would be brave. Yeah. Why not? Why not try and save the fuel? Absolutely. It'll be 3 laps. He'll come round and he'll have 2 more afterwards. So it depends on where he came into the pit stop in the first sequence. I believe was the last one to do, or one of the last ones to do so. And the fuel mileage of the Callaway does seem pretty good. So I think going to the end is too far. But why would you take tyres for 2 laps of racing? You wouldn't.
No. I mean,
just take a little bit of fuel. Yeah, absolutely. 2 laps of fuel, get back out onto the racetrack, get out on the attack. I reckon Cassel is actually going to jump up second place here. And I think this is the battle for the final spot on the podium. How intriguing does this become? Strategy with that final stop has really thrown a spanner into the works. By the way, Gerd Schulze and Chris Williams are very close for 19th spot on the road. That is currently what we look at. This is just out of Vlugplatz, running down towards Schwedenkreuz. The Mercedes of Chris Williams with Gerd Schulze directly ahead. You've also got a little bit further down the road Rokers to be as well, for good measure. So a fresh position up for grabs if Chris Williams can make this one stick. Oh, there's a bit of a dive there into Arenberg. It's covered off nicely, though. Good start. Here we go. Here we go. The side-by-side between these two. We've seen them close throughout the day. That is as close as you like. Up and over the curb at Mootkurve. Whoa, that could end into us making contact at that speed. One of the fastest corners on the track. Really terrifying. Pretty terrifying. Oh, we're going to see it again. Why not? Why not? This is the time between Ree and Shimmy. Again, no move. You've got to be committed to do it there, but it's that contact as the track sort of kinks off to the left and you want to move over to the right. If you make a bit of contact at that point, it makes both cars very unstable, and you don't want to run through Mutkova and make contact. Trust me, I know I've had contact through Mutkova, and it is terrifying.
Oh, I believe you, definitely. I mean, that's one of the things you really want to avoid that, and it is quite difficult, especially if your pace is so similar to the one you're attacking. I mean, you need to be close enough, but still safe to actually get out of it there if it hits the fan. And that's quite difficult, especially if you just keep on going.
I think so. Was this battle? This is Greta, who's dropping down a position. This is a driver that's not pitted yet, the Norwegian driver of Christian Greta. So he's sort of in the way of this. He's fresh to battle for the position. He's absolutely fine to do so, but he's not actually battling for this position, I don't think, unless he's trying to save enough fuel to get to the end of the race. Either way, let's both of them through and let's their battle continue for the podium between, or for what potentially could be 4th, 5th, 3rd, 7th. Who knows by the time we get to the end of the race. But Fabian Guide and Jovosekov that are currently battling either way for 5th spot as this is tight. That's really tight between Shimmy. This is coming down towards Flansgaard and over the curbs on the left-hand side. That was close. That is fantastic stuff from Sebastian Ree to get that position done. Really nice work, but whoa, yeah.
Oh, a lot of people going to need to shower today. Definitely.
Braver than me. Braver than me.
Yeah, I would not have done that, but then again, I would not be in the top anyway, so...
I don't know. I'm not going to comment. No, it's fine. Back out of it. It's all right. Right, let's see if Van der Zijden might be able to make this move a little bit easier than he's attempted a little bit earlier in the race. He'll try and slipstream his way past before we come into the final section of the racetrack, and certainly will do so. Looking good at the moment. Cassell has been into the pit lane, but is he going to come out ahead of this? As the entire fan group, I believe, of was it RR Leagues that is watching on in his honour, trying to make sure that he comes across the line in as good a position as he possibly can. And looking good for a podium in this scenario. Just has to make sure he comes out ahead of this. If not, it's going to be a well-deserved 4th place. We watch the battle for 8th place continue. It's frantic action left, right and centre, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really have to keep an eye on all the standings because anything can change.
Oh, no, Sebastian Ree. Oh, that was close.
That could have ended far worse than it did.
And Shimmy, whilst all that's happened, Shimmy and Mackenberg both in the pit lane in the Callaways, so they're very, very tight in. And as you can tell on your standings, as we're seeing Jovosekov and Guide once again battling it out, there goes the move. So down the inside on the Grand Prix loop, and finally passed. But it's not going to be good enough for a podium in this scenario, because not only has he been out-strategized by Bellens as well, who's in 4th place, all of them have been out-strategized by Soto and Cassell. Both out of the pit lane, running 1 and 2 at the moment, although for Cassell, this is going to be hard. He's got 2.5 seconds to hang on from Van der Zijden, and he's got 2 laps to hang on. That's going to be hard.
Oh, definitely. I mean, who would have thought that at the start?
I mean, for Soto, it's not looking super duper hot. The last lap, as a note, was an 8:22.6 from Javier Soto. The last lap from Van der Zijden was a 16.4. So closed in 6 seconds. 2 laps to go. What's the gap? 12 seconds. Race win is not over yet.
No, definitely not. I mean, it just depends a bit on how Cassell is going to manage the next few laps. And of course Chris as well. Right. I was about to say, because he's going to be the one, if he can hold
Van der Zijden back in at the moment, that's actually going to help Javier Soto so much at the moment, because any lap, any corner, whatever he can hold him back, it's just going to be time that he's going to be delayed. But they're both, the top two are both on more worn tyres than Van der Zijden, who's on the best tyres of anyone in the top four. Luciano Wittfurt once again trying to make a move stick as they run through Ab van Bogen and up the hill towards the NGK chicane. The faster complex should be an easy move for the Audi man, who's now had to make 20 positions up through this race. Had been spun around, dropped down to 33rd place, has now worked his way all the way back up to 13th, and well deserved as well. Was had to work for it very, very hard. I think the other positions might elude him, but I'd say you could be proud of that performance. On board with our second place runner, Cassel. 1.2 seconds clear of Van der Zijden. The gap is going to come down, but just by how much? Once again, code on your screen. Open up the RaceRoom portal and redeem that code. Williams clearly has had a crash.
Yeah, that did not go as planned, I think.
No, we don't frequently see a car at that angle.
It might have been a minor glitch in connectivity or something like that, because this is looking very weird.
It is looking interesting. I think Chris Williams, his internet connection has seen better days. I think we should
actually fighting.
I think it might be Ismail Rosal, is it not? Or is it not? No, it's not. Is it not? It's not our race leader, is it? No, it's not, because the wrong coloured Audi. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I think it might be like a genuine position, but where the connection's been... Yeah, no idea what is happening with Chris Williams, but either way, driving around.
Okay, weird.
Why not? Why not? It's a couple of laps to go then in the race as we're looking at the battle between Pavlicek and Ornelas. This is for 10th place, the final spot inside the top 10. These drivers have been battling it out. I've seen some good moves from Pavlicek. No, he's got better pace than his current position suggests, and so we'll try and make a move on the Portuguese driver ASAP. Don't think going to be able to close a 16-second gap down to Kirill Sokovikov, but those two have been close a couple of times. I think it might be a drive-through penalty or something for Pavlicek, or maybe even just taking tyres on the previous stop. And by the way, Van der Zijden and Cassel separated by half a second.
Yeah,
very, very close indeed.
Definitely getting closer and closer.
Battles left, right and centre as we close in on the final moments of the race. As we've also got, well, we'll focus on this battle because this one could see a position change up towards Mutkurva. Not seen, we've seen a couple of moves into this section, but it, again, takes bravery. There's a bit of a mistake from the BMW of Ornelas, which may well open the door not into this corner, but into the one after for the Mercedes of Pavlicek, but certainly not yet. 0.3 of a second between Van der Zijden and Cassel. They are 12 seconds behind Javier Soto. This is exactly, like I said, this is exactly what Soto wants, because, like I say, every corner that goes by that Cassel can keep Van der Zijden behind, it just slows him, it just delays. So, yeah, this is about as good as it's going to get for Soto. Really, really good stuff. Although now I say that, I said it was 12 seconds, it's now come down to like 9. Potentially a mistake for Javier Soto. Remember that they will have one more lap after this. So one more time around this famous, fantastic racetrack. It's been A great race from start to finish at the moment in the Nürburgring 2.4 hour ranked race. You can get yourself involved in plenty of ranked race action on RaceRoom Racing Experience by jumping on, download it through Steam, and then get involved yourselves. We've got plenty of communities for you to join, whether you're into super serious racing and getting involved in proper esports action, which been there, tried that. It's a little bit beyond me. I prefer the whole. I'd rather show up on my day with my friends and have a good fun race. Why not?
Ow.
Oh,
Jonas Decker.
Jonas
Sustained
Decker.
critical damage.
Ouch. Must be a hefty hit out of the race. I do believe. That's a shame, especially this late.
Oh yeah, I mean, almost ready. And then... Oh, I feel bad.
Like I said, this is the, I mean, in that scenario, there's not much you can do, because, like you say, if you've got critical damage, like, you ain't going anywhere. But this is the endurance spirit, isn't it? Like, this is about wanting to reach the end of the race. You know, you're desperate to push it that bit further. You want to get to the end, because that's a success story in itself. Whether you're battling for first, for 10th, for 17th, just for the last position on it, you want to reach the end of the race. Here's the move then from Pavlicek, who's going to try and get past the BMW. But the moment he's pulled out of that slipstream, you're hitting a wall. Air at this speed, when you're hitting this much, is very, very heavy. It's why slipstream works as well as it does. The moment that you pull out of it, though, you hit that wall of air. And all of that progress you're making comes to a very swift end. And no way through for Pavlicek in the mighty Mercedes at the moment. BMW holding firm. Time has ticked down to 0. We are on the final lap of the race, and this is the battle for the podium. And Chris, look at that gap for the race lead. 6 seconds. If Chris van der Zijden gets by now, this could work out for him.
It's going to be very, very close, that's for sure. I mean, there's absolutely no room for any sort of mistake from any of the drivers now.
Where it's proper heart in mouth moment. If I've always said this about sim racing and whatnot, is everyone's always telling me that, you know, it's not, you know, it's not like the real thing or whatever. I don't care. Do not care. It's a real race. You're taking part in an actual race. You're racing against actual people. It's a real race. Yes, it's on a sim. Don't care. It's a real race. And your heart knows it, because at this point, your heart rate will be going up 160, you know, in that kind of area. And that sounds ridiculous. I'm like, well, surely not, because you're not exercising. You're not doing anything like that. But you're so focused. You're so a part of this race now that you are giving it everything you've got. And it could be in the middle of winter, and somehow you're still sweating, and I don't get it, but it just works.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some people think it is a joke, but it is esports for a reason. You could see it yesterday as well during the ADAC races, where I think it was Moritz Lerner who had a Fitbit thingy,
Heart rate monitor, yeah.
Heart monitor, and just, you know, it was like it was like exercising for a few hours, and he was just sitting, but still it is so close to the real deal, and it costs so much energy, both from physical but also mental, to keep on going.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that mental focus. Your heart rate rises to, you know, obviously pump more blood around to allow you to focus more. Although that said, anyone who's tried driving in sim racing with a heart rate above, like, you know, 160, you can hear it in your ears. It's almost like you're being like It's actually really hard to drive through because it's like I'm trying to hit all these apexes, but all I can hear is it's like, oh my god, this is really hard. And that is certainly what will be going through the mind of Chris van der Zijden at the moment, as it will be of Cassel as well. It is 6 seconds still between Javier Soto. Things are looking good for the Spaniard. There has been no way through for the Audi man, and knows that every corner that goes by is an opportunity left waiting for Siphon. No way through still. This is fantastic in defence from Cassel, must be said. Van der Zijden just doesn't seem to have the answers right now to what is, as I say, every apex is being ticked off at the moment by the Callaway without mistake. It's looking good so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, props to all drivers so far. I mean, it really is a lot of effort to try and keep this pace up, especially if your tires are almost over. I mean, I think Javier Soto is really close to his tires and risking a flat, actually, a puncture.
This could switch. Anyway, we are on the very, very last lap. Let's see if there can be a move from Van der Zijden right now. If it's basically it's now or never. If he wants to go after it, it is now. We run towards Mootkurve. He's to the inside of the Callaway. They're so close between the two of them. He's committed to it. Oh, it's not quite enough. And still going to hang on is Cassel. That is brilliant, brilliant stuff. For Van der Zijden, it is more time left on the table. He is praying, in a sense, that Soto gets a puncture. Obviously, you're not sort of sat there. You want to win it yourself, but at this point, that's really, it seems like it's the only option left on the table, unless Cassel is just going to slow down so much through this section to look after the tyres.
Yeah, it's going to be very close.
Who would you rather be in this scenario? Would you rather be Van der Zijden? Would you rather be Soto? Would you rather be Cassel in the middle of all of it?
Probably, preferably Soto. I mean, just be 6 seconds in front of everybody, and well, of course you have to probably drive a little bit safer for depending on the exact tire percentage left, but you could technically slow down by now and just, you know, cruise to the finish.
Obviously here, oh god, carry on.
Where here the battle is so tense, one small mistake and it's over.
Had Van der Zijden got through, I would have said it the other way around. I would rather be Van der Zijden right now. But the fact that he's not been able to complete this pass, Cassel is doing everything that he can to keep him at bay for his own race, not in aid of Javier Soto. But it's working out in the favour of the Spaniard. So in that sense, because of this, you've got to want to be Soto in the snow. The only issue is, you're pushing the tyres to their very limit. You're risking a flat spot, or you're risking a puncture rather. And it's coming down. There you go. We're down to 3 seconds. So through this section, being very, very cautious. And why not? Because you've got time to play with. We're going through Galgenkopf where we head onto the Duttinger Hoa. So lost 2 seconds in this sector, but he can afford to lose that time with Soto. To say that after 2 and a bit hours of racing, we've got 4 seconds between the top 3, 10 seconds between the top 4, 11 between the top 5. It's so close at the moment.
Oh, definitely. And look at the time difference between Soto and Cassel. I mean, it was 5-6 seconds, and it's now down to 3.3.
Let's see if this is the opportunity that Van der Zijden wanted. This is the final lap of the race. We'll head to Soto when we come round to the start-finish straight. That straight line speed of the Callaway seems perfect enough. It's got to be full commitment down into Tiergarten for Van der Zijden. It has been a long day of racing. Oh, it's going to be close. Is there going to be any door open? I don't think so. Let's focus up to Javier Soto. Oh, as there's contact between the two, and Van der Zijden goes for a spin. It might allow Bellens through, but Soto's out of the final corner. He's across the line, and he's going to win the race on perfect strategy. Behind him is Cassel, and then Van der Zijden after that final corner issue. Bellens from pole position after a drive-through. Penalty comes up 5 seconds short, and Jovasekov did manage to get by Fabian Guide and managed to pull away to carry on to 5th place. Behind that, across the line, will be Grutta, who's currently on our screen right now. Rounding out the top 10 should be, with the gaps that they're currently in, Sebastian Ree, Kirill Sokovikov, and Radak Pavlicek as well, for good measure, who did get by Bruno Ornelis, by the way, a little bit earlier in the race. He's going to come across in 11th place. But what a fantastic race.
Wow, those last minutes were as exciting as the rest of the race. There was just no dull moment in this event.
Really was brilliant stuff. Loved seeing that. Really good battling. It was a second, by the way, between Pavlicek and Ornelis across the line. Next driver who's a little bit ahead. This is Marvin Mackenberg for Virtual Drivers by TX3. You can see just behind him, coming through, is Luciano Wittfoot, who dropped down to 33rd spot. Had to work his way back up to 13th, and fantastic work for him. Shimi's going to come out on top in this battle between himself and Misha Geisler, which we've seen so much of throughout the day. It really was a highlight of this middle portion of the race. It was brilliant racing between the two, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not just the battles at the top, but at the middle pack and at the back, it was all battles all over, really. And that does not happen often.
No, it certainly doesn't. Rokas to be will be the next driver to close in on the start-finish line. He's got a good way ahead. We've not really focused on Rokas to be too much. Said before that he was the first driver to come into the pit lane. Absolutely. Whilst we're here, we'll focus on these drivers coming across. But there is another code for you, 500 VRP. Get this one typed in, the final code of the day. We've had 3 codes from VRP. We've had 3 codes of the roof as well. So might as well get yourselves on it. Rokas to be then across the line. Gerd Schulze will be the next one. And then we've got a close battle between Simon Huber and Florian Hochlinger, as well, as they're going to cross the line. There's that Bentley, fantastic to see. Marco Vosler will be the next one, and then we've got that lovely Porsche of the Hungarian Vashegi Nodge, who will be the next one to cross the line behind this. Not too many still driving around. Ismail Rosal will be trying to get it to the checkered flag. There is that Porsche. A couple of incidents, a couple of issues for these, as there is a pure example of that. You can see the front end of this car is looking a little bit worse than when we originally saw it not too long ago.
Yeah, it feels...
That was close.
Yeah, just focus on finishing. You've got like 4 minutes left to finish, cross the finish line, so take it easy. You've got plenty of time.
Absolutely. By the way, I believe then after this there will be one more finisher, which will be Ismail Rosal. Oh, what a time to click on him, man. No. Ismail Rosal, I think that might be a little bit too far. He's still going to try and continue, but that car is very broken. It does come across as 100% damage on my screen, so potentially a little bit too far, and certainly doesn't look good.
But he's still driving, though. I mean...
I don't think he will be after that. Is he actually going to give it a good go? I think he might. I'm not sure it's going to work. He'll give it a good go and see if we can extend this one out a little bit. But either way, Javier Soto, though, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that win from Soto. What an effort. What a drive.
I mean, losing a lot of time in the last 3 laps, but being able to actually finish it, yeah, well done, definitely.
Really is a truly fantastic effort, and a great battle between this top lot. Excellent strategy from Soto and Cassel to try something different. Van der Zijden wasn't able to get through Cassel, by the way, on differing tyres, considering that Cassel's tyres were in a much better state. sorry, with a much better state. Cassell's tyres were in a much worse state than Van der Zijden. Obviously, Van der Zijden took tyres on the pit stop. Bellens, do you reckon maybe he could have won the race had it not been for that drive-through penalty?
Well, there was... yeah, likely. I mean, the difference wasn't that big after all, so he definitely had a shot, and if it wasn't for that drive-through, he would have been much closer. Of course, anything else could have happened that he just now avoided thanks to that drive-through penalty. But yeah, that could have been... it could have been a different result, definitely.
I do believe Ismail Rosal, by the way, is going to continue on to try and reach the checkered flag. I don't think we'll hang around because it's going to take a very, very long time for that to happen. It's continuing to drive, but congratulations to at least give it a go. I want to thank everyone for joining us throughout this broadcast. It's been really, really good fun to be in the commentary booth throughout this race and to be joined by you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Lewis. It was really a lot of fun and, well, a lot of action as well.
Absolutely. Well, you can follow us on all types of social media, over on Twitter, over on Facebook as well. Alternatively, just subscribe to the channel for all of the upcoming broadcasts and whatnot, for all of the esports and sim racing action. Thank you so much for joining us. Until we return, bye-bye.